Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome in for another day of SPL action. It's into week 8 now, and we're going to be breaking things down with 4 big matches this week. Joining me on the desk, though, first of all, will be the one and only Anatoly. First thing this morning, how you doing?
I like the way you introduced me there with that snap in the head.
I was ready to pow!
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pows in this matchup because a lot of interesting players on both of these teams, former teammates as well, between Adapting and emilitoo.
Well, hold your horses, because the fans at home don't even know what we're doing yet. Let's have a little look at the schedule for you all at home. We're going to be seeing off with Eunited and Pittsburgh Knights, as Tolly already alluded to. Following that, Space Station Gaming up against LG, the bottom of the bottom. Then after that, tomorrow we'll get to see SSG take on the Knights, and we'll get to see how the performances go today to see an idea of what's going to happen there. And last but not least, Rival versus Eunited, which could be very interesting too.
It very well could be, and this is an important set for both of these teams because it's closer and closer towards that high-res expo. Look at him. He's segueing in. Let's have a little look at what we're talking about with High-Res Expo here. SPL of Phase 2, the teams are playing through, but then the top 6 will qualify for the World Championships. The bottom 4 teams in the SPL will move on to the placement week, and there they'll meet up with the best of the console and the minor league to try and find 2 more teams that will head to the World Championships on November 15th. And between both of these teams being tied into the standings at 9 and 4 apiece, the only thing that separates these 2 teams are their plus and minuses. Pittsburgh Knights with plus 17, Eunited with a plus 7. And if so, the big talking point there then is we look at Pittsburgh Knights and Eunited as the first set of the day here. Whoever wins this is going to go up in the standings, and we have to have a winner in this best of 5. There's going to be no splits and the likes from the previous seasons. It's all about how well they play today. Now, I'll tell you, last time these 2 teams did face off, it was when emilitoo first arrived for you. That's right. His very first set in phase number 1. Didn't really go United's way as PK won all 3 games, but the scoreline was a little misleading. They were all very close games. The average game length was about 40.5 minutes. It was also a much different meta back then. There was only 2 bans in phase number 1 for the first portion of the banning phase. Not only that, we saw gods like Bellona, Zeus, Giannis, Camazotz being picked in that matchup. Very long time since we've seen either of those 4 gods. And now we're seeing a lot of change-ups in the duo lane too. Just a reminder as well, today's games and tomorrow's are not played in the most recent patch that dropped on Tuesday. It's the week before. We're not going to expect players with a new patch to have a day and a half to practice and scrim. They'll be playing on it the next week. But there's iceicebaby on your screen now, the jungler for Reunited. How's his season been, Tolly? Pretty good thus far. I think he's a very diverse player, playing 7 different gods in 15 games, but he heavily prefers the Thor and the Erlang Shen out of those 15 games, playing 9 of them. And it's worked out very well for them so far to climb the standings a little bit more so. Well, we did see a little bit of this Chronos, and there was a lot of talk about whether it was a mistake or they forgot to trade, but those guys said themselves they were happy to give it a go, and it was planned. I think United against Space Station Gaming and their previous opponents, Obey Alliance, was definitely not trying to reveal too much of their hand to their harder opponents, I would say. Playing so many different gods, that's why everyone thought that iceicebaby and emilitoo didn't exchange, because that Ratatoskr in the long lane was a little surprising to see out of the Hunter player, but United made it work. They made quick work of their competition, but against Pittsburgh Knights, I don't think we're going to be seeing either Chronos in the jungle or Ratatoskr in the long lane. These stats, though, you've seen, it's been 2.5 KDA for a jungler is pretty solid for the most part. For every death he has, he is killing 2.5 people. That's what that stat comes down to. Not too shabby at all, but he's going to be having to face off against Adapting another. A bit tired. He's just kind of warming up. It doesn't really matter if you're yawning beforehand, because once the game starts, your blood is just pumping. That's the main thing. But it's all about the picks and bans at the start, and they can take a bit of time to get to that. But all these players on Pittsburgh Knights looking to try and find a victory here. Their year hasn't gone probably as planned for a lot of the fans expected. Them themselves may have expected to be a bit strugglesome. But they're starting to gather a bit of momentum now, and you expect that when the World Championships are on the horizon. I agree. I think Pittsburgh Knights is a team that could beat any opponent at any given day. They fell short a little bit at MSI, but they lost to the team that won it all undefeated. So you can't be too upset about that if you're Pittsburgh Knights. Phase 2 has looked rather hit or miss for them, losing to Rival and Dignitas, 2 very difficult opponents, but winning the matchups they should have up against SK and Obey. With Knights, so Tolly, has it really been a case of them not really trying to find what their identity, what they're trying to play through is? Because I feel like their picks and bans for the most part
They sometimes will lean towards adapting, sometimes they'll lean towards protecting Zyrhoes a little bit more. It seems like they're still trying to work out what's best for them.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure the direction that they're trying to do, because adapting has played so many different gods. The person on Pittsburgh Knights that's played the least is Deathwalker. He's played 5 different gods in 16 games. Normally you would expect the solo laner to be the most diverse one, but in his games he's played either King Arthur, Osiris Set in 14 of those 16 games.
Well, no real surprise, because they're pretty potent in the lane. They're always easy to lock in, but it's very telegraphed to your opposition. Eunited, though, will be first pick, first man, and the first thing taken away will be that Thor. Definitely an interesting one to see the Thor taken there, because both, you know, iceicebaby and Adapting have got that in their god pools.
They really do, but I think they want to prefer something else. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a Ratatoskr potentially. And Pittsburgh Knights, they usually draft their jungler after the secondary ban phase anyway, unless the Thor is open.
Well, Ice is taken out. One of the higher raising gods at the moment in terms of ban rate. We've seen a lot of her be impactful. The silence range increase was big, but not only that, it gave shields now. And then there's a few extra bonuses that a lot of people are starting to realize how potent she can be.
They used to only give magical protections to your allies, but a shield, it also helps out against the physical damage dealers. And I love how Eunited are taking a shot at Deathwalker, playing so many different Osiris games. They want to make Benji win this solo lane matchup.
Look at that man on your screen. He's got facial hair now. That's how long we've been doing this for. Season 1, he was just a baby, but look at him, he's all grown up. Thoth and Osiris banned out, so a shot there towards Zyrhoes with that Thoth ban. A lot of recognition from the old days of Zyrhoes. He loves that character. It's not the greatest on paper in terms of performance overall, but with Zyrhoes on the team, you expect it to be a danger.
Yeah, with Zyrhoes on the team, he likes his Thoths, but he also likes his Jormungandrs and his Souls. He's played both of those gods in Phase 2. Surprised to see that ban actually, but there's still so many high priority picks, and we're seeing both of these teams preferring the Chronos.
And we did see Chronos for iceicebaby in the jungle. Last time we saw it picked up for Eunited, but don't expect that. There's a world champion, a 2-time world champion, that has piloted that considerably well, emilitoo, so it wouldn't surprise me to see it go into his hands.
That's right, he was MVP for Season 3, that Chronos skin, basically because of him back in energy up against his teammate adapting. We'll see how he adapts to this pick.
Very early Geb pick there as well from Pittsburgh Knights. More than likely going to EmilZy and the Olorun. Potentially for that man on your screen there, the Scottish lad, Vote, will more than likely get hold of the Olorun. We've seen him now and again, he's started to get more play. Very good at objectives with that field.
I agree, but with the Olorun selected, the thing that PK has been doing a lot is putting Zyrhoes into the long lane. So that means either Zyrhoes is going to be playing the Olorun in the long lane, or we're going to see him finally go back into the mid to a more traditional pick that he's been known for.
Very good point there indeed. Anhur now locked into, more than likely for the mid lane position, unless we do see that Chronos flex back towards the jungle again. Anhur, a little bit more dominant in the middle area, but the pillar comes into play a little bit more often. The leaps over walls to escape can be very utilized well, and of course, well, a 75-second CC immune ultimate doesn't hurt.
Especially when you're stuck in that sanctified field from Olorun. You don't want to always burn those beats to negate that 30% slow. A very smart pickup, very safe. You can flex it between the mid and the long lane, but in the mid position, I love this for BigManTingz. He's actually played Anhur the most so far in Phase 2, and he's very comfortable with it.
And the Merlin drafted by the Knights definitely tells me that Olorun should be going to vote in the long lane. I'm expecting a Merlin for the middle area here. We'll see how that plays out. But the problem with Knights here, they've drafted 3 magicals so far, so it's going to allow Eunited to focus a couple of physical gods with ease, knowing that's what the Knights need to go for.
A Runic Shield would be a really solid pickup for Eunited, specifically out of Benji playing that King Arthur.
See if they end up going that way. Achilles banned, Ares from Knights taken away. Pretty wise here. The no escape could cause a lot of problems for a team like that. Now back over to Eunited, who are thinking about where their last ban wants to go. More focus towards the solo lane. No real surprises there. As a Hombat's taken out of the jungle too, trying to strip that away from adapting.
Team fights galore, honestly. You don't want to have to deal with the Fear No Evil alongside the Sanctified Field. But if you're worried about Hunbats, you also have to take note of the Daji. Potentially Mercury is a solid pick, and they're going to save the last pick for adapting.
We talked about solo laners. Has Chulainn been picked up by Deathwalker so far?
Not in my notes. I would have to look back. I think maybe once, if even once.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to see because it's been a while since we see the Chulainn picked up. The Rage did get hit a while ago. surprised to see that picked up here. We'll see how it works out for them. Xing 10 drafted for Eunited here. I think this has been a sleeper pick for a while, this Xing 10, but we did see the Knights run that once or twice so far this phase, and it looks like Eunited are going to follow them down that path.
Yeah, I don't expect PK to last pick the Xing Chen, but this is still a solid pickup up against Olorun's basic attacks, reducing that by about 40, I think 50% basic attack damage, but picking Bakasura into a Xing Chen, rather curious.
Curious how so?
Because of the Furious Roar mechanic, reducing basic attack damage. It's hard to peel the Bakasura because of the CC immunity, but you could still at least mitigate that Butcher Blade damage.
I was just thinking more to do with the cripple from the ultimate from Bakasura too. It really shuts down King Arthur, Xing 10, and Erlang from escaping.
That's true, but you also have to consider some of your weaknesses as well, which is going to be the Xing Chen.
PK then on paper here, that draft is leaning magical heavy. There's a lot of pressure onto adapting with this Bakasura pick for me here.
I think also the base damage out of Chulainn is a good way to take advantage if United lean too heavily on the magical defense side. Chulainn's transforming as well, slamming those fists, tossing and turning you around is nothing to scoff at.
Definitely feels like United's draft though, looking at this, is going to be focused through iceicebaby on this Erlang Shen in the jungle. We'll see if you can find momentum early, look for some early picks. Well, I expect adapting to be focused more on farming in the early game and trying to strip away some jungle buffs.
I'm seeing more late game presence from PK between the 2v2 of Merlin and Bakasura, whereas the Erlang and the Anhur should be able to control the neutral camps, the mid camps, the oracles as well. Going to be hard for PK to really contest that.
It feels like United in the early game should have control a little bit for me, but will it go on to the late game? Can Knights come back? The casters are standing by to bring us game one.
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Anatoly. It's Finch and Aggro is moving to the game one to start the day. Eunited versus the Knights. And as they said, I think there is going to be a lot of pressure on adapting on this Bakasura. But hold up. We got a 10v10 party. Not 10v10, but 10-person party happening here in the jungle. Collis has already blinked in. iceicebaby drops the pen and votes the early target. EmilZy could potentially get collapsed on here now, though. Impale off the mark from Tingz and Benji right there with him. But everyone makes it back to their own side of the pitch, and it's all okay.
So just a lot of blinks expended and not a whole lot else. I mean, Kalas gets an ability that maybe you want Furious Roar more level 1, but it's still not too bad for him, I don't think, especially if he's doing the speed to red start. Ice gets the pin at level 1, which not ideal, but still serviceable. Overall, the thing that I'm taking away from that is that Vote's pretty darn patient on the purification bead. If I'm getting rooted and then rooted again, I'm probably slamming that beads button to try and get out of there, but he understood that he was safe.
Yeah, Vote had the confidence to make it back out of there. So now back to, the regularly scheduled programming of a boring early game. We're going to talk about the state of the game. Adapting on this Bakasura, I think, does have a lot of pressure for him. That cripple field could potentially be devastating for Tingz and iceicebaby, but he could also be in a lot of trouble, I feel like, up against this King Arthur and the Xing Chen. Where's his timing? Just talked about adapting this game.
I do think that he can make some really good ganks happen on that right-hand side. Benji's going to be playing aggressively because it's Benji, and that's what he does. But Benji's also very good at understanding those timing windows where he might be vulnerable. So I don't think it's guaranteed that he'll find kills over there, but that's exactly where I'm looking if I'm adapting. And I understand Toli's fear of the Xing Chen if he's a Bakasura player in this matchup. I mean, Furious Roar will reduce your basic attack damage by 50%, but that doesn't reduce your Butcher Blades damage. Butcher Blades damage is true damage that pops up separate from your auto attacks, and so you'll still get those 70 true damage procs every time once you max that out, so it's still not too bad for you.
Iceice and Adapt and get here at the same time, but Vote stuck on an island is going to need a little bit more than just a Bakasura to jump in. iceicebaby finds the hits, and that's first blood for Eunited. Well timed, as I just don't think that there was recognition there from Vote that he was in trouble.
And there's just not a whole lot he can do once he realizes it because of that haste on the Mink form from Erlang Shen.
Pretty good.
Finch, we are freed from that oppression on live servers. We don't need to, that will not happen to you in your games. And this will be the last week of SPL play. We'll see it look like that.
That's a great point. It's just worth mentioning in general that they're not on the live patch here currently for this play. They'll be starting that up next week. Give them a little bit of time to get used to some of those adjustments. So there might be some stuff that you're not as familiar with. You don't have to worry about Susano's, I suppose, here in the SPL, but at home, he's been a bit of a problem.
Some nonsense there with Heartseeker for sure. But no Heartseekers, I imagine, this week.
No.
It'll be much more of what we've expected to see. And if I'm Vote, I think I need to expect that gank coming in the rest of the series because, I mean, we saw it in the replays that they were showing on the desk. iceicebaby on Erlang Shen made the exact same timing gank in their set against Space Station.
And Adapting's rotation makes me think they had an idea, right? He was right there with him.
He had some idea that it was coming. It's just that vote a little bit too far forward, and that's the weakness of Olorun. And he's got so many strengths. That's kind of what needs to be there, and I think to balance out the character. Olorun's late game absolutely insane. His team fight presence with that ultimate, maybe not matched by anyone else. But laning phase, easy to struggle, easy to get ganked, easy to die. Even emilitoo, I think, could end up soloing vote this game if he's not careful, just because of the lane matchup.
iceicebaby's lurking here on the right-hand side, but Deathwalker should be okay. Both of our mid laners are in the mid lane. Both of our hunters are in the long lane, as we expect.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't
point.
think Eunited do a ton of that swapping. It's really the Knights that might have had Zyrhoes go over there with that Merlin, but I think because it's Olorun, you just feel a lot safer with him being in that long lane. Not the only thing to kind of take a note of, though, Adapting. I feel like he oftentimes goes a safer route with beads on his assassins to start with, but he's picked the blink here this time on the Bakasura. Maybe not that worried about CC.
Needs to be worried about Kalas's ultimate, though. I mean, that is one that you're going to have to either keep the jump up for or wait to blink engage until that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel is down. And PK should be very familiar with the potency of that Xing EmilZy one that really brought it back into the forefront, I think, of the pro players' minds. He had a great couple games on it just a couple weeks ago, so PK are definitely wary of what that Xing can bring to team fights.
They've got plenty of knowledge, and this 3v3 we're seeing here, this is what's become so important, just not amongst these two teams, but just everywhere, is how do your jungle, mid, and support fight when they're together, because so often they're together sooner. Adapting commits the ultimate there on the right-hand side, perhaps worried he'd be fully collapsed on there?
I don't know. To get a mid-harpy, I suppose. I mean,
literally, right?
Yeah, I think he only got one, and Zyrhoes is backing right there. Definitely an odd decision, but one that if I'm a United, tells me that PK is going to play this slow. I mean, you have to take a look and say, you know, what would make Adapting think that that's the correct play in that instance. It must be that Pittsburgh Knights have discussed that they don't want to play this early game fast and loose. They want to farm it up, wait until the mid game, try and fight around some Furies, and use Vote's ultimate to be the deciding factor. So now if I'm a United, I think, well, maybe I can get away with a little bit more, maybe I can punish, and that's exactly what they're trying to do, invading this blue.
If the read of the Knights is that they're not that strong right now, then Eunited should capitalize, but the blue buff invade will not be happening. EmilZy and Adapting both rotated over, so Deathwalker defends that one quite easily. And, you know, this is a marquee matchup over here in the solo lane as emilitoo takes a shot at stripping the red, but doesn't get there. But this is a big matchup over here for Deathwalker and Benji. Maybe not as big as it once was. Solo laners can take a while to have some impact, but certainly one I still think worth keeping tabs on.
You have to. I mean, right now, so much of the meta is about the 3v3 in mid and all these, you know, hunters or mages, whatever they're playing in the long lane, getting a ton of farm. But if it's a 3v3 in mid and the hunter's alone, then that means the solo laner's also alone. And they get really big really quickly too. It's just that they seem to be a little bit more susceptible to those ganks.
Oh, iceicebaby. Never stood a chance.
Never stood a chance. Blink Cataclysm, easy pickings right there. Not even needed on that Regurgitate, it didn't feel like, but better safe than sorry.
So we clearly had it the next time they were planning to be aggressive, so really no harm, no foul. emilZy that will be traded back. So in the end, ends up being a 1-for-1, but I think getting iceicebaby in that spot's a lot more valuable.
No doubt. I mean, if you're saying, okay, we can trade our support for the jungler, that's kind of what the meta has been for supports for a lot of the years, just chasing the junglers around, then we're obviously okay with that. It feels a little bit worse whenever you didn't need to lose your support, and emilZy just goes a little bit too far forward. But at some point, you just got to tip your hat to BigManTingz. That's just a good individual play to find that Impale stun and set up Kalas for the CC chain.
Hastened Katana for Adapting on the Bakasura to get things started as opposed to the Talaria boots or Ice. And I feel like this has started to creep up more and more on some of these junglers that really are like more about like setting up and facilitating, who aren't going to miss out on all that extra power.
Exactly. It's still... It was all over the meta, right? The Talaria boots.
Yes, when you weren't giving up that much.
Exactly, and you may as well always go for that. When you have to give up something, I think that players realized, hey, Warrior Tab might be better here, maybe a couple Ninja Tab Eyes, depending on the jungler, and how much we want to use auto attacks. But then you think, man, I really missed all that movement speed, and getting around the map all the time was really good, and, well, I'm going to be kind of behind anyways. I don't think I can 1v1 these Hunter players no matter what boots I'm building. so I may as well get to more fights and get to more farm. And I think that's the right mentality. I think that we'll see more Talaria boots. Still great MP5 as well. Erlang Shen, not too worried about his mana pool, but gods like Bastet or Hun Bats that use a lot of mana in the early game certainly can leverage that MP5 as, in addition to the extra movement speed.
Adapting will eventually catch up in movement speed, but right now at a deficit with this hastened katana start. We've seen him continue to build in that blade tree and skip boots at times. Sometimes they do put boots in there as well, so we'll see where he goes with this pathing. But for now, significant advantage, at least in terms of moving around the map for Ice.
I do think that after the nerfs to the katanas, I mean, I know Hasten didn't take a big movement speed nerf like the others, at least if my memory serves, but I think that we will see a Ninja Tabi pick up here for adapting after this Hasten katana. Okay,
right.
It still did stay at 10%. Can't go the full.
Oh no!
Unlucky. You can't go.
What happened?
Tried to blink.
But how? But he wasn't in combat.
No, I think he might have put in a wall, and so it ends up not going off. Wonder if EmilZy plays on instant cast all the time, because that means his relics are on instant cast. If it goes in the wall, he won't blink.
Unfortunately, ends up hurting him as EmilZy has to use his own shield to get back out, but gets caught up in the whirlwind of Rage and Steel and gets pushed back by the Impale that forces Tings to use the Desert Fury, but they're fine with it. They get that kill cleanly and make their way back out.
Plus, Zyrhoes had to use the beads because of Kalas's ultimate. Good start so far for Eunited. Just a matter of if they can keep this going once Vote and emilitoo really join the fray. Feels like this Olorun is going to be... I feel like every time Olorun's on the map, he's the one you have to look at for, is he doing his job, or his ultimates finding homes?
Right.
Are they changing the team fights like they should be? Because it's just that impactful.
And that's interesting, because I would say 2 of the 3 kills that United have gotten, if you're on the Knight side, you go, okay, that's not too bad, we just kind of accept that. Red buff invade coming through, though, so we'll talk about it later. Icebaby is now committed positionally quite a bit to try and look for this strip away, and they don't even find it. EmilZy ends up taking the red buff. With adapting here, though, they might consider a re-engage, but he holds on, stays back, and the Knights are done.
Cute little taunt by Icebaby, maybe get the kill onto EmilZy, but at the worst case scenario, you lead him by his nose straight onto the red buff and make sure that Zyrhoes doesn't get it.
EmilZy yet again is the target. Cataclysm buys him a little bit of time, and BigManTingz didn't have the Desert Fury. I think that would have been a dead EmilZy had he had it there. Instead, everyone falls back. But you're right, United have been active in this early game. A lot around this Xing Chen, I feel like.
Yep.
If Kalas is going to pick it, then they're exactly right to have it early and involved.
I mean, they've got a much better early fight than PK. In the 3v3, you've got Erlang Shen, Anhur, and Xing Chen. Those are great characters that can fight in the early game, really across the board. And then Pittsburgh Knights, they've got Bakasura, good at fighting, but also great at power farming, and that seems to be Adapting's MO in this game. Zyrhoes on the Merlin, which can fight, but would prefer to wait until a little bit later. And then EmilZy's Geb, which definitely would rather wait until later. So I think United's done a great job of identifying where they are strong and taking fights there. It hasn't resulted in a lead by any stretch, but it's been an XP lead for BigManTingz. And if he can be the carry for this team like he has been most of this year, then I think giving him the ball, so to speak, with this playstyle is a good choice.
And it does make you wonder if maybe, you know, kind of seeing some looseness from adapting early on with his ultimate kind of fed into this. I mean, I'm sure United are capable of reading, you know, the states of the game and where their relative team spikes are, but it does help a little bit to kind of get a small bit of confirmation that the Knights aren't super ready to fight either. As it's actually a Toxic Blade here next for adapting, and I kind of like this in this spot. It does give him a lot of what he needs as another ultimate comes out around blue.
Worried about a taunt coming from Icebaby, maybe? I mean, he has to be worried about those CC chains, because if it's an Icebaby taunt and a knock-up and a Kalas ult, he's dead.
Deathwalker might be in some trouble too. Still had the Salmon Leap, but there's the taunt to bring him back. EmilZy had a Geb shield waiting, and Deathwalker still standing firm. United have been pushing the issue, but EmilZy, there where he needs to be, slows things down, but now he might be in trouble yet again. The Geb shield is going to be still a while away because he used it to help out earlier, and BigManTingz rotates over.
Perfect timing, and Zyrhoes just can't match it. He has to stay and get this farm in mid because he's a little bit behind. It's a mentality thing that happens to all players in all lanes. You know, once you fall behind a little bit, you got to end up taking it.
There's the blink from iceice. Deathwalker comes back to the tower to improve his chances of trading. Is so near the transformation, but can't find it. Benji cuts him down yet again. And United's recognition that they've got the pressure here on this map has been staggering so far. I mean, they're against the Knights. This is one of the top teams, and they do not look deterred.
Not at all. They're playing with a really good amount of confidence right now, and it's definitely showing in their play. I mean, BigManTingz is 3-0 at this point. But again, I think that with these long laners sitting over there, I mean, this is where you got to have trust in your ADC that we're putting all our eggs in this basket, it feels like. Not quite there yet. I mean, Pittsburgh Knights still only down about 1,000 gold. XP is still only about a level in most places. Even Adapting has a lead over iceicebaby because iceice has done so much more fighting than in comparison to Adapting, where he has been farming. But right now, I mean, these picks onto EmilZy will not keep happening. I mean, eventually he's just going to get too tanky to the point where that game plan no longer works. United is going to have to switch targets eventually, and by that point, Pittsburgh Knights is hoping that they're able to combat these fights a little bit better.
Pyromancer is being considered, and looks like this is even more to your point. United sticking away from the one part of the Knights that has farmed effectively so far, which is vote on that Olorun. Instead, they'll come fight over the neutral objective on the right-hand side, where they just got to pick, and the Knights can't make it in time.
Yep, no reason to go towards where Pittsburgh Knights might be a little bit stronger, where their best team fighter is. We see this playing a lot against teams that might have their best player in the long lane or have the strongest pick over there, and that's where we just go, oh, have fun. We're not going to come camp you. We're not going to spend any time over on your side of the map. We got the kill on you early, slowed you down a little bit, and now we're going to spend we're hoping that by the time you're ready to join the team, your team is already so far behind that you can't do enough.
Deathwalker blinking in to try and confirm his own blue buff. I think he might have gotten it with that last barbed spear, and indeed he does. Now the transformation forced out. But we're going to have a full-on brawl on our hands. Collins blinked in for the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. That brings two back into the action. BigManTingz there for the follow-up, and Benji finds Adapting. EmilZy will fall as well. That's two towards United, and the Knights are reeling.
Perfect fight by United. They split PK really well in that engagement. And Pittsburgh Knights just I couldn't tell if they wanted to fight or not. I mean, you're either giving that up or you aren't. It feels like they couldn't decide.
Wow, Zyrhoes, sorry, buddy. You're not going to make it back to the Tier 2 tower, not when the full-on Benji dive is in effect. And they're going to head right over to Gold Fury. Who cares if Vote's here this time? You wiped everyone else.
Exactly what I was saying. You hope that by the time you're ready to take on Vote, the rest of the map is so far behind or such a non-factor that it just doesn't matter. Easy Gold Fury for United. And this is the perfect example of transitioning a lead out of mid into solo, and now to the left side of your map. United's playing textbook Smite right now.
And coming into this game, Knights were the favorites, but I don't know how much I'd call them the heavy favorites. This felt like a 60-40, 65-35 type scenario in their favor, but United so far have come in with a good game plan. They played directly to it, and the Knights have been on the back foot. Only down 4,000 gold. This is not entirely out of reach by any means, but if United keep up at this pace, the Knights are going to have few options.
It feels like Pittsburgh Knights were ready for a classic EU game where we don't do a whole lot for the first 18 minutes. We do a lot of farming, and then we stare at each other at Gold Fury for 5 minutes and see who wins off of that. United just wasn't down for that style. They were very aggressive from minute one.
iceice here for another invade, a little bit early this time, so he'll just harass Deathwalker. I wonder what's next here for Adapting. Is this like a Kin size, I guess, in this spot here next?
Could be Executioner, could be Aussie as well if he wants to try and stand in box a little bit.
Very interesting. We'll see where he goes as blue buff now drops in. There are 3 members of the Knights here to defend, iceice and Benji, with Tingz lying in wait. Deathwalker with this back might not even be looking to contest. They just got to give this up.
And that's honestly not that bad. I mean, Chulainn losing blue, it's better than any other solo laner losing blue.
Sure.
He doesn't actually need the mana at all. It's farm and gold, and that's why you see Pittsburgh Knights being willing to put a lot of resources into trying to defend it. But I think it's much better that you come to this mid-fight healthy and ready to try and defend this Tier 2 tower, or Tier 1 tower.
But it's being shredded. emilitoo and BigManTingz together go through it like wet paper. Pretty easy for them to take down the Tier 1. No other neutral objectives up on the map, so there is a brief moment of respite for the Knights, if only because there's nothing else to lose right now, except these Tier 1 towers. If emilitoo continues this warpath that he's on, rotating over towards Deathwalker with Benji in tow. This is the Hunter, right?
Yeah, he's over here.
Okay.
May as well. My boy's level 17. He can go wherever he wants. iceicebaby will cover the lane so that Vote doesn't get a tower for free. And emilitoo is so big that Deathwalker can't really play.
He cannot. I mean, this is the solo laner that is still looking up at emilitoo right now, and they're going to try and force down this tier 2 tower before the Knights really have a chance to fully rotate in for the defense. Deathwalker catches a couple of 200 basic attacks and does stop the tier 2 from going down, but emilitoo now knows just how much he swings for.
No way that Eunited pulls fire here. I mean, everyone from Pittsburgh Knights is ready to go. Benji has to be careful that he doesn't get caught on this back. Looks like he might have enough for that full Excalibur's Wrath, so even the cripple shouldn't cause him too many problems.
He is A-okay adapting, realizing he can't really afford to come in and fight. And look where adapting is in the player damage charts to give yourself kind of an idea. Votes is obviously low because no one's been over the left-hand side to fight at all. But adapting, on the other hand, has just been farming, and at this point, it hasn't really been enough. He's now down 2 levels to iceicebaby because of all the global farm they've been able to get as a team.
And it worked for a little bit. I mean, he had a level lead through most of the early game, but like you said, it's just global gold and experience that helps out Iceice.
Deathwalker caught by that impale, now at half HP. Low on mana there as well as Desert Fury comes through the knockup from iceicebaby, and Deathwalker, tanky as he is, can't stand that much damage. And I think now this Fire Giant pit looks a little bit better. They'll go to this Pyromancer first, but I think they could even afford to at least start looking at the FG, and it appears that's the call. Force the Knights to respond in some way, or you just take this. Adapting on the back end, EmilZy rotating in from the top. The United might not be firmly committed as they've just sent Tingz away, but Fire Giant at half.
Seems like PK has done enough to force them back, but EmilZy's the target.
On the right-hand side, caught, has to use Geb Shield early, but pinned. Benji comes in, and he found himself Volt, a much better target. He finally drops the Sanctified Field on just about everyone. That slows down the fight. Adapting comes in on the backside, but that's just not going to cut it. Nowhere near enough damage from him right now.
Adapting, no jump. Kalas might be able to finish this himself while iceicebaby's chasing down the backliners up top.
BigManTingz gets adapting, and on to Zyrhoes we go. They've already forced out the relics from him, and right now the Knights are just trying to make their way out of here because the United have gotten everything they wanted. Aegis from Vote buys them a moment, but they can head right back towards FG.
That's what they want. I mean, maybe just pushing this tier 2 tower is a little bit safer at this point. The easiest way to let PK back in this game is let them steal a Fire Giant at U-Start.
No way they can defend this tier 2, and if they do, iceicebaby can come in from the back. Only gets emilZy in this taunt. Desert Fury largely nullified by the Geb Shield. 3-man knockup from Deathwalker, but United the ones playing with a hefty advantage, so they grab the tier 2 and make it out no problem. Should
be okay. I mean, Aegis used by emilitoo in the ultimate, but that's still not even that bad. I mean, still beads and Aegis up for BigManTingz. And this is good clinical smite by Eunited.
Yeah.
Could go over and try and pull this Oni Fury instead of messing around with Fire Giant. You've also got more towers to take on the left side of the map. I think that might be a little bit of a better call. Like I said, the easiest way to let PK get back into this game is to have Fire Giant do a lot of their work for them.
Look at this Witchblade for iceicebaby too. I was just talking about how it felt like adapting was ineffective in the backline, and it's going to get worse if this is the kind of itemization United are willing to go into to limit that basic attack focus from him. They will indeed pick up this Oni Fury, as you mentioned, but I just don't know if they're getting enough from this Bakasura.
I like this call from PK. You've got to take a risk. You're not winning the game at this rate. I want to see them full commit.
Benji's nearby. This does give some disruption factor, but Pittsburgh Knights are still heavily favored. They'll drop the Sanctified Field and grab the FG. Great awareness from the Knights, and the Sanctified Field confirms it. But United are here for the fight on the backside. They want Vote, and he melts. The Knights have to keep running and hold on to as much of this FG as they can.
emilZy pinned, has a little bit of help with that knockup, but iceicebaby gonna track him down. Good peel from Deathwalker, but emilZy's not going to be able to live.
He ends up falling. That means just 3 members of the Knights still standing. And with United all the way pushed up with 5 members here, they can start to just force down the right side. Phoenix Frenzy popped as well, and the Knights can't defend this. That is the right side Firebird gone.
Look, I still think it's the right call for the Pittsburgh Knights. You've got to take a risk. I mean, you just aren't winning the game by playing the way that you're playing so far, and so just waiting it out and waiting to lose doesn't seem particularly viable to me. It's just that United does a good job staggering their CC, target focusing where they can, and they get enough on the back end to punish the Pittsburgh Knights, but I still don't think that was the wrong call.
Agreed, and the Knights did, I think, about as much as they could on the disengage to make that work for them as well. Just United were able to get there a little bit too quickly for their liking. And at the very least, they took the FG from them, which is still some stalling, but with the way that United have been pushing, and an Oni minion wave not to mention, they should still be able to do almost as much work as they would have with the actual buff. So the Knights can only hope to hold on.
Surprising that they're backing here and not pushing on this tier 2 with that Oni wave, but I guess Pittsburgh Knights are up in full strength. emilZy has Blink and Cataclysm ready. I just don't know if he's going to be able to catch a speed buff on her.
They are on their way, though. This is a full-on chase, especially Deathwalker's out front. Good obelisk from Tingz would have slowed him down, even if he had come through that pathway, and puts an end to that little bit of a chase. Nothing left back there for you fellas except red. So now we start talking about how the Knights can do in the siege defense, Ryan. And they've got some good tools. You always feel good when you have a Merlin on the defense.
No doubt. Great at clearing the wave from a distance, poking, defending against all-ins. I mean, Merlin does a lot of that very well. Sanctified Field is hard to fight into no matter where it is. If you're on offense, defense, whatever, Sanctified Field will mess you up pretty heavily. But, I mean, XP-wise, how do Pittsburgh Knights contest? I mean, emilZy's level 15 at this point. That's not high enough, especially when everyone else is at least level 17 on Eunited. Zyrhoes is the same level as Kala, so he's doing no damage at all to this front line. I mean, he needs Obsidian Shard really badly, and probably just isn't even close to having that.
This Pyromancer will be going down for United. The Knights have to consider if they want to be in the jungle. We're still a good bit from the Fire Giant spawning. I'm a bit surprised the entire team's been pulled over here to this right side of the map without the FG there. But Benji's happy to see it. A two-man stun of the base form of the ultimate. No one's there to follow up, but still pretty nice. That's the Sanctified Field forced out from Vote as well. This has been a win all around for United.
That's huge for United. Their only fear is probably that Sanctified Field, and if Vote can find a good one, and now you don't have to worry about it. You're good to go. Pyromancer's easy. I mean, you still have 2 minutes until Fire Giant's back, so you've got some time. I think going to this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, picking up the Primal Fury once it respawns, probably not a bad idea. And you know that the Fury spawn and the Fire Giant spawn are linked because Pittsburgh Knights did Fire while you did Oni Fury. So even if you didn't get the exact timer of when it went down, you should know that it's roughly 10 seconds after you killed the Fury.
Should be able to use that information to stay on top of it. That right side Phoenix will be back up before too long. And the Knights are going to want to push this wave out exactly like they're doing to try and have that up so they can make a full-on base defense. They've got the Emperor's armor there for emilZy. He's recognized the game is about to be centered down onto defending underneath these Phoenixes, so he wants the team to be as good at that as possible. Probably won't be able to defend the FG, so they're just going to be in the Phoenixes.
Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh Knights are going to step up to this Fire Giant fight. I mean, you kind of need that Phoenix to help you out, not only in the damage that it will provide for you, but also just the defensive structuring of that side of the map. I mean, this is designed to favor the defenders this close to their base, so you got to use that to your advantage.
iceicebaby's gone really aggressive, it feels like, with his build. I mean, I know he still gets a good amount of health from the Wing Blade and the Witch Blade, but it's a good deal more offensive than we oftentimes see these jungle Erlang Shens. As the Knights are the ones looking for a pick onto Benji, the Sanctified Field's there to catch him, and he's being shredded by Vote and the basic attacks. A huge pick from the Knights, and we're only a few seconds from the FG.
Perfect timing, but Finch, that cost them 4 ults and 3 blinks to kill Benji.
Yeah.
I mean, United's going to get this Primal Fury. They've got no concerns about anyone being over here because Pittsburgh Knights need to be clearing out this right side. I wonder if PK are going to try and just take a 5-on-4 without their ultimates. Doesn't seem like a winnable fight to me. You really need your ults if you're going to be this far down in golden experience.
But at the least they can try and slow down United grabbing this objective, because they just don't have that much information. Well, I say that. There's a sentry ward back there beyond the blue buff, so they have a good idea where emilZy is. And another here just in front of the Pyromancer pit. But United probably want to wait till Benji's back up. He has the upgraded teleport now. He'll be right into the action once it starts.
Won't be any time at all, and Pittsburgh Knights likely won't have a lot of their ultimates still. I mean, not a lot of CDR for a lot of these players. Vote has a decent amount, in 20%, but he's got the longest cooldown of the ultimates on his team. Ultimates are coming back up right on time, but Blinks won't be up here for PK. Seems like they're going to try and defend fire anyways.
It looks like it. Maybe a bit of a soft defense to just waste more time from United, buy them some time to get a little bit closer, but it's not as if they're farming with that time anyway. They're kind of just standing around in the jungle, and iceicebaby and Kalas on a fact-finding mission to push back the Knights.
Still not leaving, though. I mean, you're either, if you're not defending, you should definitely be spread out and farming. So with this positioning, PK must want to defend, and only
Right.
20 seconds left on the blink, so it's not that far away.
No, they've done a good job, I think, at biding their time.
Frenzy,
But
it's
that's
gone.
an all-in commit from Eunited. They have now confirmed the objective. emilZy tries to make his way in, but Eunited confirmed. Cataclysm does catch Benji inside the Sanctified Field, and a big knock-up from Deathwalker. That's not a bad way to start the fight if you're down 10k gold. And the Knights find Benji yet again and are on the retreat.
Not bad at all. emilitoo has to use the Aegis as well. That's much better for Pittsburgh Knights, and this is what I was talking about when I was saying that the early game plan will not work forever. Kalas is going to try and find ults onto the frontliners. He picks up both Deathwalker and emilZy. emilZy uses Cataclysm in order to not get picked up. But there's just not enough tank shredding damage from the Anhur, even with the Titan's Bane, even with the Crusher. I mean, that's a lot of power and a lot of pen for BigManTingz, but those are late game tanks that are going to be hard to kill. And so Pittsburgh Knights are able to kind of escape without losing a whole lot. Now, United still got fire, but if emilZy would have stolen that with a shockwave, and boy was he close, the Pittsburgh Knights may have been actually at the advantage.
Yeah, they played that fight about as well as you could have did the Knights, and their willingness now in these last two engagements to all-in commit onto Benji has been really impressive to me, because they've recognized that if Olorun has time to get those autos in, even Benji is going to melt. Even with the Oni and the Bulwark, I mean, it's just too much damage that he's taking underneath that Sanctified Field, and it's worked for them now twice in a row. And that should instill some confidence for them about their fight around these Phoenixes. They didn't even have a Firebird helping them there.
No, they didn't. And they had a much less advantageous position by the geometry of the jungle. Pittsburgh Knights looking a lot better, and their fight's going to get better with these Obsidian Shards. Vote has his finished. Zero's very close. Should be able to sell the Mage's Blessing for it at this point if he feels like he needs it on this Phoenix defense. So plenty of pen now for Zeroes and for Vote between the Demonic Grip and the Spear of the Magus. Those two will stack with one another and make each other do even more damage.
4,000 damage just about for adapting, though. It's hard to imagine a Pittsburgh Knights victory as long as that remains true. He's got Kin Size and Executioner. I imagine a Blood Forge or something on that line to get him back out after he gets a kill. If he can finish that, he can probably get back there and do some work.
Needs to be careful here. Might get blinked on by iceicebaby. No, emilitoo won't try and spring the trap. Instead. They'll just crush the Phoenix easily.
320 sound good on auto?
And adapting uses beads with emilZy right next to him. I mean, he's got to have a little bit more spatial awareness to know that emilZy's right there in his pocket with the Geb Shield. That's a huge cooldown that adapting just lost. He needs that if he wants to dive in.
You're exactly right. I mean, they're just going to turn on him and start dropping the CC if he blinks to the back line. And now to be way more successful, you only have to wait a moment when he's in that regurgitate form. There's a little bit of CC immunity, and then bam, you can hit him right once that's passed to slow him down.
Left side Phoenix is the focus, but adapting going to find emilitoo on this side. I don't know if he has the damage to kill him right away before the rewind goes off, but no Aegis for emilitoo.
And Emil was willing to take the fight, but adapting wasn't. Still, United playing this a bit slow. They've only got another minute with this Fire Giant buff on the 4 members to try and threaten this left side Phoenix. But to be fair, they got the mid Phoenix already. It's not as if they'll be feeling too bad. And emilitoo can threaten the right side by himself pretty well. Forces Emil into the rewind, but still has some regurgitate left on that right-hand side. Gives up on it. Instead, Sanctified Field defends the Phoenix and left.
Pretty good. I mean, no carry relic usage on the right-hand side for Pittsburgh Knights, but they lose Deathwalker's ultimate and emilZy's ultimate and Vote's ultimate to get out of what Kalas was throwing at them with that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Not looking great right now for PK.
This is crazy. This is so often the assassin that does this, but emilitoo single-handedly not keeping adapting at bay and threatening the Phoenix, and Deathwalker barely able to reposition before it cost him his life. But with Tingz free to swing at the left side Phoenix, that burns down. So does the Phoenix on right. The Knights, it might have looked promising for them in the jungle, but here in the base defense, they just couldn't keep up.
Just so spread out, man. I mean, emilitoo is doing too much damage to these objectives. That I really feel like PK could have gone in on that mid-Phoenix siege, but they just didn't expect the damage coming from emilitoo on that Phoenix.
No, and he chunked through it too quickly. Fire Giant buff now gone, so United's fight at least a little bit more honest here for the Knights, but defending on the Titan is so much more difficult than defending on the Phoenix. Benji has already started to push his way in. emilitoo collapsing from the right. Deathwalker the early target as Zyrhoes has to use beads way in the back line. Adapting in an emilitoo is a pretty big bounty for him, and that should slow down this push from United. Cataclysm finds 4 members as well, and suddenly iceicebaby is in the grave as well. Eunited finally stuck around too long.
Adapting doesn't have blink, but he needs it to close this gap, taking so much damage from BigManTingz, but emilZy doesn't want to let it go. You can tell that Pittsburgh Knights knows that this is their best opportunity. If they could have decided to Eunited, they may have been able to run it down and end. They've got a lot of damage with this composition, but still so many towers up that they would have had to chew through. Would have been close. I mean, clearly PK knows that they are on their last legs. Seen very few comebacks from 3 Phoenixes down, though I think we did see one this week, right? In the minor league?
Yeah, in the minors,
I
think, or one of our other 2. But you're overwhelmingly correct that being down 3 Phoenixes is such a difficult spot to defend from, because your Titan can just be jumped on and burned instantly, and it just makes it so much harder to fight. The Knights are going to try and grab the Fire Giant here yet again. It's actually 1-1 in FGs, despite how the charts have looked all game. BigManTingz is here, the Fire Giant's low, but the Desert Fury is enough to strip it away. Eunited grab the objective, and now Benji can start blinking onto Vote in the backline. Knockups there, and Vote in the grave. BigManTingz falls to Adapting, though, but gets caught by Benji with the King Arthur ult.
Adapting to back it up because they know emilitoo is on the way with iceicebaby right behind him. They got to defend his right. I mean, Deathwalker's been doing it the whole time.
That's right, Deathwalker trying to keep this mini wave out because they're about to get this mid Phoenix back, which they desperately need. But Eunited are pushing their way through. Vote for BigManTingz, a big trade, but I think the Knights might have lost a little bit more there without Vote available. Mid Phoenix drops immediately.
Plus, this Fire Giant sustain and more damage from Eunited is going to make a difference. I mean, Kalas would be much weaker without this enhanced Fire Giant keeping him healthy on that chase.
Eunited now on the precipice of taking one away here from the Knights. I can't even say stealing one because it's been theirs all game. Deathwalker blink 2-man knock up. Kalas responds with an ultimate of his own, but doesn't find much. Meanwhile, iceicebaby is starting to shred emilZy with a little bit of help from Benji, but nice repositioning from the Cataclysm, but minions pouring in from every direction. The base becomes harder and harder to defend, and Eunited relents.
Vote spawns. That's the big difference. A BigManTingz and Vote spawn at the same time, but we aren't in Eunited's base. We're in PK's base. So it's a 5-on-4 instantly. Probably weren't sure if Vote's ultimate was going to be up right away. Pittsburgh Knights still standing. They should be able to get these side Phoenixes up at least for a little bit, but Eunited likely won't relent. Once they backspend this gold to heal up, I bet you they'll be right back on that right side Phoenix trying to keep it down.
Not too big of a gap, though, anymore, despite the near 20,000 difference in gold numbers. Just effectively, it's going to start meaning less and less. There's still the Guardian's blessing for emilZy, the Mage's blessing for Zyrhoes is a huge deal that he still has that. So there's certainly, you know, still relevant to this gold lead, but like I said, it's less and less.
It is. At the same time, though, I mean, look at all the relics that are upgraded. It's all of them for Eunited. So if they're doing beads trading around objectives or around these Phoenixes, and that's just going to favor them if the game ends up getting extended and they don't just end outright. But Pittsburgh Knights have been investing gold into power pots. Zyrhoes had one on their last Titan defense, so you know that they might not have enough gold to actually end up selling these last few items and buying them. And take a look at the Polynomicon for emilitoo, as he's actually very bottom of the player damage charts in the entire game.
Yeah.
Because Pittsburgh Knights just haven't really been able to get on top of him. He's been doing a lot of the objective damage, so the Polynomicon's going to help with that. He might one-tap a Phoenix at this point. I mean, if it's this low, he might be able to just one-hit it with that Accelerate Polyproc and the Enhanced Fire Giant.
He does so much additional damage. emilZy, though, starts the fight on the Knights' terms. Cataclysm on 2 into the Shockwave. Adapting goes right for BigManTingz in the back. Gets a Geb Shield and repositions, but they've thrown Adapting with the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. They do have the Sanctified Field down as well, and Benji's stuck in it yet again, so Vote makes it 1-for-1.
Look at emilitoo, though. Look at Emil. He's streaking for the Titan.
He's just going to go for the end. He hasn't done any player damage all game. Why start now? He's just going to go for the Titan and try and take the game. That forces Zyrhoes back, but emilitoo has too much damage. They strip one away from the Knights.
You're so right, man. Why worry about the player damage? He did more than 8k Titan damage right there. Yeah. May as well end up snagging that one away. So close for Pittsburgh Knights. Their defense was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
But Eunited just played that early game so well, transitioned their pressure from mid to solo to long lane, and then played these objective fights well enough to win the game.
Man, it's hard for me to think of a more emilitoo-style game, though. This guy has so much confidence in what he brings to a team. I know there have been players before that are worried about how their numbers look at the end of the game and that sort of thing, but that's never been Emil's thing. You know, he does whatever it is that he needs to do for this team. He's very confident in what he thinks is the right thing to do, and in that moment, he knew it was to just go take the game.
What's the objective of the game, Finch?
Oh, it's to get the Titan and win.
Yeah, kill the Titan. emilitoo kept it up there, kept it locked in the noggin, and finds a way to get it done, man. And really, that left side Phoenix fight, so unfortunate that Adapting gets clipped by the last frame, it looked like, of Whirlwind of Rage and Steel.
Yeah.
He gets pulled back in. Maybe he could have gotten back to defend a little bit earlier with that extra movement speed, but either way, Pittsburgh Knights down 1-0.
Yeah, what a huge ending to that game for Eunited out in front of the Knights. Would have been hard, I think, to predict this one. Let's see if the Knights can bounce back, though, in this next game.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the SMITE Pro League.
And welcome back to the analyst desk with myself and Tolly joining me to break down exactly what we saw in Game 1 there, which was a very interesting Eunited win. That, to be fair, Tolly, on paper, we saw the teams come out. We were expecting that Eunited would be off to a good start, and they did just that.
Seems like the momentum from beating the lower teams out of Eunited gave them the confidence to come in firing in this set against PK.
And with the composition they drafted early on, really good stat line for BigManTingz and for iceicebaby in that one. A lot of the plays really came through them. You can't really ignore Callus, though, who went undying in that game.
I agree. Big Man did the PvP, but emilitoo doing the PvE.
Hey.
The lowest player damage of the game with 8,000, untypical of a Chronos, but highest structure damage almost at 15,000.
And he ended up winning the game by trying to wrap round the back on the right-hand side where a team fight was on the left. PK should have noticed that. They should have had a ward there as something to see that coming, right?
Well, they definitely knew that because they forced a fight on their dual lane side Phoenix, but a lot of the early game plays was set up between Big Man and Callus. The only kill from Pittsburgh Knights, or at least they didn't have a second one until that 25.5-minute mark. BigManTingz was just all over the place, and in this Fire Giant fight, Adapting couldn't really do anything in the back line here. Just so many good plays from Big Man.
Nothing Vogue could do in that situation either. And a nice impale from Big Man to follow it up. But tell me about this play.
Yeah, so this fight right here, there was two defensive ultimates. PK just can't make anything happen offensively. EmilZy uses Cataclysm, Sanctified Field out of vote. Adapting is waiting to flank.
Yeah.
But by that time, Eunited are already resetting. And this level 14 Bakasura can't do anything.
Yeah, if you notice it there, Adapting does commit. And I think his commitment there was good, but he just couldn't have any follow-up. His team were too isolated away from it. So he gets picked off, and then United get a man advantage.
Yeah, that's right. And the very impressive steal from BigManTingz on the Desert Fury. You can't body block that one, unfortunately. PK all over the place. And United really escalating their lead at the 18-minute mark, having a 5,500 goal lead, doubling that at 22 minutes.
And this was the end of the game here. You can see the fight still happening on the left-hand Phoenix, but the right-hand side Phoenix was down with a full fire minion wave. And emilitoo being in that position with Polynomicon, I believe, too, he's going to have an easy time.
That reminds me, actually, of Zapman.
Some Zapman plays?
When we were at the launch tournament against COG. I forget which game it was exactly, but We forced a team fight on the left side. Zadman was split pushing. No one paid attention, and that's all you need. It doesn't matter what you're doing in the PvP if you find the last hit on the Titan.
Well, I did catch Rogue coming out there. As you can see him just on the top of your screen there talking to the team. Coming out of the coach's booth, he was like, we made every mistake possible in that one, he said, as he passed me by, which I can understand too. The game was definitely focused towards the mid-late stages from this composition. The PK had drafted here. And at a moment at the 32-minute mark, they had all 3 Phoenixes down in United, but it did feel like the tide was slowly starting to turn there.
That's true. They barely held on to their Phoenix. It was a great pressure coming through from Deathwalker on the Chulainn, making it difficult to engage and peel at the same time. It was either emilitoo that wasn't capable of doing the DPS or BigManTingz.
I was going to mention to you, how do you feel the Chulainn performed in that game? We've not seen too much of him as of late, but Deathwalker drafted him very early on there.
I don't think it's fair to pinpoint this game on either Deathwalker or the Chulainn pick. I think it was a collective loss from PK and just an overall collective win out of Eunited. I think it fared
well. It's more to do
well.
with his viability of Chulainn. Clearly, he's getting picked up. Did he perform to the standard you're hoping for from a solo lane position at this level now?
I mean, most gods will just do the dirty work of diving the backline. Chulainn still is capable of doing that. I think that BigManTingz getting a lot of respect out of PK today.
Well, I think after his performance in that last game where he only died that once towards the tail end, no surprises to see PK ban away that Anhur. Eunited going to take away the Thought once again. The potential hands of adapting in the jungle, or even the solo lane of Deathwalker. We've seen a couple of Thor solos as of late, but it's all for PK to play for now. United up a game, and this is the performance so far that I guess United would have loved to have for themselves last time these guys face off in Phase 1.
They definitely need this kind of confidence booster. Being tied at 9-4 in the set record-wise between Phase 1 and Phase 2. One team's going to 10-4, the other's going to drop to 9-5.
Now, EmilZy on your screen there as well, I will say, from PK's performance, the only real kills I saw in the early game came from the blink engages from the Geb more than anything else, so that's where they found a couple of picks.
That's right. That was the only kill onto iceicebaby until the 25.5-minute mark where PK all-ins onto Benji. That was just pushing out the mid-wave, hoping to get the Fire Giant after the fact, and PK had to invest 4 ultimates to kill that King Arthur, which delayed the game.
Isis is available here. I'm interested to see if Zyrhoes or Vote end up drafting this for PK. It's something that's banned considerable amount just lately. We're talking about that in Game 1, funny enough. But now there's a chance for them to take it. If they don't, I can guarantee you BigManTingz will.
Oh, yeah, you have to, like, snap pick this Isis. It's just too good to pass by. Objective control, the ability to force beads. You're very safe in the backline with your Spirit Ball. You have slow immunity in your Wing Gust and root immunity, so it's just overall great pick.
And knock-up immunity. So many things with that Wing Gust that come into play too. Isis then will be the first pick. United with the match-winning god Chronos. I mean, it's all about who kills the Titan, and Chronos did just that. No surprise to see that again.
I think it's a true tale of time to see Chronos in emilitoo's hands, beating adapting with that world's MVP skin.
With how this composition's coming together for United, though, I'm wondering what we're going to see BigManTingz on this time round. They've already banned away PK, Anhur, and AMC, two of the most commonly seen in the mid lane gods in the Hunter position. Where will they go to? Will we see another Hunter, we expect?
That's possible. Chiron comes to mind. Xbalanque is already locked in. You could always go Neath, potentially. I've seen some Hou Yi middles from time to time.
PK, though, going to pick up the Xbalanque, so they want the Darkest of Nights, something that can really clutter the comms and clutter the communication of United. Now it's back over to them to select. They could go for a Merlin pick is what I was also thinking, which we've seen a little bit more of now and again for this mid lane position, but it would be a bit more magical heavy as a composition.
Athena is a solid pickup, a very comfortable pick for Callus. He really, really likes this pickup. It's one of his most played gods so far in Phase 2, and I think throughout his whole entire career, and with the setup of Chronos, Erlang, Shen, there's so much CC there. You got the mini stun from Chronos, the root knock-up taunt from Erlang, Shen, the slow and the taunt from Athena. Whoever PK drafts in the jungle or solo lane needs CC immunity in their kit.
It's funny, if Erlang Shen wasn't drafted just yet, I could say that Athena could flex to the jungle for iceicebaby, because both those two players love a bit of Athena to turn things around. King Arthur and Osiris banned away so far, back over to Eunited for their last ban. A lot of focus towards the solo lane in the counter ban phase.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Benji honestly just plays like the Vamana, because you don't really need more CC now, you just need a damage dealer to clean up whatever your other 3 characters start off.
Do you ban Chulainn here maybe if you're... Well, they didn't. They went for the Nigel, I guess. Surprised they didn't maybe look at the Chulainn. I guess they were not too worried about what it can bring. The Merlin will be banned by PK, though. They're expecting that BigManTingz may have ran that for the mid lane there.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a Poseidon pickup. Maybe Raijin, something that has like long range, right? So maybe Ra, Raijin.
Vulcan? Is he still around?
Kukulkan is another great pickup besides the Vulcan. Something far away.
Kukulkan, I've seen him in it forever.
It wouldn't be too bad. You have great frontline of just Erlang and the Athena. Insert, you know, solo laner for Benji here, but it's still going to be another Hunter, something that I think BigManTingz excelled with in Season 6.
Yeah, I was expecting if he was going to go Hunter route, I was expecting maybe a Chiron, a Medusa, even a bit of Ho Yi we've seen in the mid lane now and again, but it will be that Chiron selection. PK then, with 2 more picks.
It's just another long-range god, except it's physical. You're going to rely on that Centaurus ultimate to follow up from all the CC that you have provided to you.
Oh, well, PK have sensed a bit of an option here for themselves to look at this Odin, potentially, for the solo lane Deathwalker, and it's smart because Eunited have no escapes.
That's right. So it was 2 games so far that Chulainn was picked out of Deathwalker, and this is going to be the second Odin game as well if he locks it in.
My only problem with an Odin in the solo lane is you don't really get to see him in the team fight stage until much later on.
Yes,
I think Odin, a lot of the time, you want him in the mix early on to get those early level 5 rings off, maybe get yourself a couple of kills before we see the Phantoms come online. If it's going to be a solo lane Odin, generally you won't see him till around level 12 to 14, where everybody else in the game is also level 12 to 14, which means there's definitely a Phantom to cause problems.
And the problem with Odin there was there's no CC immunity, so if he gets taunted once, then he's just going to die.
Yep.
So it's smart to, you know, pick something that can get away. Achilles having that Fatal Strike, Bakasura also with his own CC immune ult.
This balance from PK is a little bit better and a bit more early game focus in there as well. It's not all mid to late game with that composition now. Bakasura is still going to be causing problems for them. I'm a little bit worried about Engage again, though. It's very similar to Game 1.
I agree. It's up to Geb and Achilles to allow the Isis to pop off. I would have liked to see something from Adapting that synergizes better with the Isis, something that could just CC from a distance, but that's difficult to do with Erlang and Thor not available to you.
Ratatoskr maybe could have been an option, right?
You could, but then you have to be a little bit too close range.
Gotcha.
A Willish wouldn't be bad to synergize off of the Geb.
Does she
knockups.
exist? I feel like she doesn't exist in competitive play, at least at this
No,
level.
she exists.
We don't really see her too often.
She's a sleeper pick.
We'll find out how sleepy she is. Jormungandr was the last selection there for United, though. Benji in the solo lane more than likely going to be taking hold of that one. How you feeling about this? Is it going to be another United win?
It's feeling that way, honestly, because with all the Bakasura again from Adapting, I'm just not really seeing it work too much here. The rewind from emilitoo is so easy to get away from that. We saw the little 1v1 battle on that solo side Phoenix where emilitoo did manage to still get the Phoenix, and it's going to be even harder now to deal with the CCs out of a United.
Well, we know as well that Isis and Zyrhoes is a very good player. I'm excited to see his Isis performance here. If he can get some good silences off on the Athena dash taunts potentially, it could turn things around and make this a potential chance for PK to get themselves leveled quite easily. Let's find out then if PK can do it and even the score. John Finch and Ryan are standing by.
That's me. Thanks, Hindu Man, for using the full-on name. I'm next to Ryan Bailey, and we're going to move into game number 2, and Adapting is back on this Bakasura, despite it being, I mean, just to be honest, unimpressive in game number 1, almost a non-factor.
I mean, in the late game, he was doing what you want your Bakasura to do, blinking on the backliners, insta-killing them through their relics, but until then, I agree. It did a whole lot of nothing. We'll see if with this Xbalanque in mid lane, Pittsburgh Knights will have a little bit more pressure. They give the vote, they give the Isis over to vote.
Interesting.
And this is something that I think the picks and bans for United here, this is the luxury you get when you're up a game. You can experiment, you can see what Pittsburgh Knights are going to do. I think it's one of those, like, you know, Zyrhoes doesn't play a whole lot of Isis. He's played forever and has never played a whole lot of Isis. So why not see if they'll take it? You know, maybe they'll let it go. Maybe they won't value it. Pittsburgh Knights do, but it's over to vote, and then that puts Zyrhoes on another god that he hasn't played a whole lot of. I don't think in the Xbalanque, but I think the Xbalanque is the right. I think this is actually the right way to put these 2 picks. Isis with this amount of farm, just too good, man. She's nuts. She does so much for your team composition. She brings everything.
But she does it all early, too, which is why I love her in the mid lane. I feel like you're definitely going to miss a lot by not having an Isis there and the ability to kind of rotate to objectives quickly with the circle of protection. It's a tough call, I feel like, to make when you have the Xbalanque there already, too, because I do agree I'd rather my Xbalanque in the middle lane, too. So if you're picking between the two, this is probably the best. But as long as you're still fighting around these objectives, they use that circle of protection to kind of say you can't come into United, good luck contesting this, they should still be fine.
I agree that for a lot of reasons it makes sense to put her in mid, but the reason that I think she's better in long right now is just because she insta-wins fights by herself so often that you may as well maximize that potential by getting her all the farm. I mean, in mid lane, she can fall behind, she might not be as effective. In this area, she's getting all the farm she needs. You can get solo kills with her, you can stay pretty safe. As long as you are ready for this iceicebaby level 2 gank.
Twice in a row.
Yep.
Now that this has happened, and Vote this time, I suppose, was a little bit more prepared for it. iceicebaby not willing to all-in commit, since Vote had the wave pressure here on Emil was pushed back. And emilZy's now here to keep Vote safe, so everything should be okay. So let's compare this 3v3 then. Erlang, Shen, Chiron, Athena against this Bakasura, Xbalanque, Geb. I mean, I know that they made some adjustments with this Isis, but without her in the mid lane, this just feels like an even slower 3v3 to me.
It's still not great. I mean, anytime you have the Geb, it's going to hurt.
Zyrhoes in some trouble, has to use the Rising Jaguar defensively, but iceicebaby patient, waits it out, and lands an easy pin.
Yeah, Blink's a good relic. That's what I've learned throughout my time casting the SMITE Pro League. I mean,
thank you for that.
Zyrhoes gets blinked on level 1 by iceicebaby. That's why he really can't gank Vote on the left-hand side, because he got the beads out from Zyrhoes level 1, and then Kalas with that blink Athena taunt. Why worry about telegraphing your initiation when you can just instantly do it?
Wait,
and guarantee it.
That doesn't make sense though.
Right.
Because if you blink, when did she dash?
Right. Yeah, this is all of my ranked Athenas would tell you that it is impossible to use your dash before you use your taunt rather without having first used your dash and your shield wall. You need to use both.
Both, yes.
In order to guarantee the damage.
There's a dash into a taunt. It's working pretty well up against Deathwalker. Blue buff's still standing though, so Pittsburgh Knights will still have their chance to try and grab this one. But Adapting and emilZy have given up on it. Blue buff stolen yet again, and United did this so well in game 1 with this constant blue buff pressure, and that was against a Chulainn who didn't need the blue buff, right? Up against this Achilles, he would like to have it.
He really would. And this is a matchup where Deathwalker can get a lot of pressure into the Jormungandr. So what's the best way to relieve that pressure? Set him behind and rotate the team over and get your squad behind you that can set you up for a little bit more success in that lane. I like the way that United's playing that right now. It's a matter of if they can do it once Adapting and Deathwalker are both level 5, and their fights get vastly improved. Both of those characters really are just shells of themselves pre-level 5. You'll add in a Darkest of Nights from Zyrhoes. It'll be a lot harder pretty soon for United, so take those opportunities when you can take them easily, and they did just that.
That's what worked so well for them in game 1, was not specifically, fighting before pre-5, but recognizing what the state of the game was and what their spikes were relative to their opponents. And in game 1, they recognized that they were going to be stronger early on. They pushed the lead, kept forcing the Knights to fight, or pick between fighting and farming, or not leaving them anything to farm. And the Knights never really got back on even footing because of it, and United won that game. Now here in this game, I think that there's a little bit more early presence from the Knights. They've got this Isis, and their late game feels really good with this Geb Xbalanque, so maybe they can hold on.
Certainly hoping for a better performance from them. I mean, they really got ran over in the first 20 minutes or so of game 1. Seems like with Adapting heading over very early to this right-hand side, this is way before that blue buff is about to spawn, and we might see a little bit more of this, more rotation respect from Pittsburgh Knights on these buff invades.
emilitoo with another early rotation, but no one steps up. I like the idea, and on the exit he goes over a ward anyway, so he might never have been able to complete that, but he didn't really have much else to be doing, so come look and see if there's an opportunity. If not, he can just head back to lane, everything's fine.
Now Vote could have frozen that wave to try and deny a little bit of farm to emilitoo, but then he would have missed out on the purple buff experience going down as fast as possible, so Vote doesn't end up punishing emilitoo for that whatsoever. And now Emo can push this next wave with a bit of advantage and rotate into mid-harpies or oracles a little bit before what Vote can do.
Hey, Ice Ice, they certainly know you're here, but what can they do about it? Shockwave from emilZy, but now he's taunted in, no Cataclysm to help, so he'll rely on the shield, but this low, it's not enough. Pulled back in by iceicebaby, and that's the second kill of the game now for United. Not able to strip away the blue, though, this time. Deathwalker defends it.
still, you get another kill. I mean, you set emilZy so far behind the last game.
Right.
Might as well try and do it again here. Good dash that time by Zyrhoes as Blink Taunt came through. Emil takes a lot of damage, though, from Vote.
And now he has to rewind, but doesn't get it off in time. Vote cuts him down. Now iceicebaby looking for the retreat, but Vote has rotated in on this Isis for a double kill. Now, I'd make the argument she could do that from mid, but it doesn't hurt that she's level 8.
Certainly does not. Now you get the red buff invade. emilZy still only level 4, and Adapting's out of mana, so I don't think he has enough to eat minion. He doesn't. BigManTingz able to secure the red.
That's a big deal that the Knights couldn't find a bit of a counter push there. Now, despite that really good fight, they are still behind, a little bit less than 2,000 gold, but they're trading this deficit the same way they did last game to get Vote ahead. Last time it was Vote on that Olorun, and they were hoping he'd be able to get enough value for them late to make up for it. This time he's on the Isis, and I would say that execution barrier is a lot lower on an Isis than it is on an Olorun.
I mean, there's still, Isis is a very difficult character to play optimally. I mean, you can make the jokes that she's overpowered right now or whatever, but at the end of the day, a really good Isis is hard to come by, I think. And so Vote has that level of execution, but it's not, you know, if we didn't get a good Sanctified Field, it's already over level of execution. I can agree with that. In last game, Vote didn't get a chance to make that impact until Eunited had already gotten a Gold Fury in his face, done a whole lot. Pittsburgh Knights, as long as they can keep Eunited off the major objectives, Vote will continue to have a lead in this lane. It's just a matter of how big Eunited will let it get.
Kalas, Iceice, and emilitoo all on this left-hand side. This could spell trouble for Vote. He doesn't seem to recognize it. He's already used the Spirit Ball. Will drop the Circle of Protection and the Silence to buy himself some time, but Kalas comes in on the backside for a taunt. Now there's 3 members, and Vote just couldn't survive.
I'm surprised Vote didn't see Kalas on the ward that's by purple. I mean, I guess Kalas was on the other side of that rock initially, but then once he pushes up, he's still trying to Spirit Ball emilitoo. I mean, if they're going to rotate 3 people over to you as Isis, you're dead.
Right.
You just have to trust that your team's going to be able to get something done elsewhere.
Cataclysm from emilZy, well timed to avoid the taunt. Red buff defended by the blue squad, it would seem. So they'll fall right on back.
But even with losing that buff, they get the ultimate out from emilZy, and they get Zyrhoes purification beads. That's a win. Eunited is just playing so aggressively throughout the game that it's helping.
No ultimate for Iceice, so that's why Defender of Olympus is coming through from Kalas. He might have needed Defender of Olympus even with 9 turns blessing, honestly. Kalas bails him out. Adapting gives up on the push for now. Going with this hastened katana start again into the Toxic Blade. Adapting has been very willing to do different builds on these in-hand assassins this year, and sometimes it can catch you off guard, but now if you're Eunited, you should know what that build path looks like.
Yep.
Based on last game, it should have a better idea of how to respond.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think it's a bad build whatsoever. I
No.
mean, giving up on Ninja Tabai does hurt a little bit, but you're still getting a lot of attack speed from the Toxic Blade. That way you get health and pen as well. So I actually like the Toxic Blade a lot, even before you talk about the anti-heal passive, which is relevant against Erlang, Shen, and Chiron. Not super relevant, but relevant nonetheless. And you get a bunch of other really good stats on top of that.
Certainly not a bad build path. Here's Kalas and Iceice. Not considering the Gold Fury, they're looking for positioning, but a nice ward there should reveal Kalas. Still, though, Adapting has to give up the purification beads in order to make the disengage, and it's purple buff invade season as the Eunited come to strip it away.
And like I said, I mean, Vote's going to have a lead. It's just a matter of if Eunited will let him have that lead. And ever since that double kill, where has iceicebaby been? Not on the right-hand side, trying to shut down Deathwalker, who is still having trouble, it seems, in this lane, staying even with Benji as Benji steals away his blue all by himself. Instead, it's been Iceice and Kalas all over this left-hand side of the map. And you can afford to make these really heavy all-in rotations because you have the global from Kalas, because you've got pressure in mid. I mean, Zyrhoes on this Xbalanque, a lot of times, I mean, you'll see Renegades pick this Xbalanque in mid because it's team fighting well, and it can fight in the 3v3 very well, but it's not going to clear better than a whole lot of characters, including Chiron, and so you're going to lose mid-harpy pressure unless you can get pressure on your side lanes to have them rotate in and help. This is a very Renegades-esque composition from Pittsburgh Knights. It wouldn't surprise me if we've seen this exact 3v3 of Geb, Xbalanque, and Bakasura from them so far this year, but I feel like it's just a little bit, they aren't putting the pressure points quite as well as Renegades do. They aren't utilizing the Isis pressure that they should be having in that long lane to invade Reds, probably because they fell behind a little bit early, but That's part of the deal.
Well, I think Vote recognized just how much trouble he was in and left because Knights committed to the Pyromancer very quickly, and they'll grab it in response. United are going to keep hammering away at Vote on this left-hand side. So the Knights have to do stuff like this Pyromancer, and I think, honestly, even more if they're going to balance that out.
No doubt. I mean, Vote is your win condition on the Isis. He's your top pick. You've got to do a little bit more to help him, I think.
We'll see what the plan is from the Knights rather the next time, because clearly the plan from United has become to bully this Isis, and it's worked. That's now 2 deaths in a row, and emilitoo has established himself a lead where there was initially a deficit. Has the Ethereal Staff finished here as well, and is working on the Pythags, it looks like, to back that up, and is higher up on the player damage starts than we saw last game.
Hey, he's already in like, what?
An eighth of the way
An
there.
eighth of the way there, yeah. He finished with 8,000 player damage. This is the exact style that Emil went last game. He went with the Ethereal Staff Rush, probably just for the HP and survivability. Also the crowd control reduction, excellent against this team composition from PK. They have kind of set duration CCs that you can really use that CCR for.
Well, I was gonna, pull it away from you there in the middle of your explanation to do a nice Gold Fury breakdown of how that fight was gonna go, but there was no fight. It turned out that's just a Gold Fury for United. So please, more about how good E-Staff is.
Yeah, it's really good. Now the passive isn't great in the early game because it scales off HP.
Right.
But who cares? You get all these good base stats, and that passive will continue to get better and better as the game goes on. And it's not even bad at the early game. It's just not quite as valuable. So I like this idea from emilitoo. It gives him the ability to box really well.
Collis can't find the taunt onto Adapting, who jumps away, and that'll be the end of that skirmish. I thought that he had Pen a bit too delayed in his build last game, but, I mean, you have the Demonic Grip and the Telekines that does, effectively give you some Pen on the basic attacks, and I think that when he was in the 1v1s, he clearly was doing enough damage. Cataclysm from EmilZy does not land, so that build path didn't hurt.
It's a lot from Zyrhoes to commit that as well. I mean, it's the right idea. You have to commit to kills, and it's just that Collis had PK on a ward, knew that was coming, had the dash charged, and was able to dash out in time. Just good reactions from Collis and good use of
Defender of Olympus.
Information.
On to Vote yet again. Vote committing the crime of being in his lane, and he shall pay for that post-haste. See you later. You can tell that's not a rich businessman because he paid for his crimes.
There it is. Ends up actually facing the consequences for once.
Yeah, imagine that, huh?
That's kind of crazy to me. I mean, Vote takes 1 death, sure. That's the way of the road. Takes 2 deaths, sure. Oh, Zyrhoes.
That's crazy.
God, that's unfortunate. I mean, but by now, he's lost his tier 1 tower. It's hard for him to step up. He needs some more help on that left-hand side, and just not enough. I don't know if it's not enough ward coverage, because yes, Defender of Olympus is coming in, and you can't ward that. But you can ward iceicebaby being there. He's been there 3 times and has not been caught out on any of those wards since. Only 1, and it's very low on the purple buff.
And can we look at what emilitoo's doing? Well, we don't have time now. There's a big fight happening with Collis. Adapting commits the Regurgitate middle lane and doesn't find very much there. Now Deathwalker under siege as well on the right-hand side. He gets the Fatal Strike blocked by iceicebaby. Absolutely nuts. Benji goes in to the World Serpent Ultimate to try and hunt him down. They even have Collis making the rotation. Hard to see Deathwalker to make it his way out, but that's a nice Geb shield to buy him some time. Even gets a little bit of heal from the Glad Shield, but Benji with the spit over top.
Just when you thought he was out of range.
What a roller coaster.
Benji ends up getting him. That was nuts from iceicebaby.
Yeah.
And clearly, this is just not, the Pittsburgh Knights weren't prepared for this level of aggression in the early game. They just came in expecting a slower set, because United has been kind of willing to have those sets at times, but they've also had these blistering starts. They have these 2 different play styles, and they came in with the blistering start one, and Pittsburgh Knights look like they haven't gotten out of bed yet.
And this is why, I still have some questions about putting the Isis over there. That, I thought, was their best chance for fighting in the early game for some relevance. She makes her 3v3 so much better, and I agree that when she rotates over ahead, that's really good, but they haven't let that happen either. United kind of had both ends checked, it looked like, coming into this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. The 3v3 with Isis does get a lot better, but is Zyrhoes super comfortable on that god?
Sure.
I mean, we've talked a lot about Zyrhoes' god pool throughout the years, and I just don't know that Isis is a big part of it.
Potentially running into a bit of that wall here in this game as United enjoy a pretty significant lead here in terms of gold. 6,400 there, 7,000 in terms of experience. This is starting to look more and more like Game 1. It's a bit of a different tune, but the same song, really. This early aggression from Eunited has pushed Pittsburgh Knights out of relevance, and now they're on the back foot, just kind of hoping they can get a crumb of farm.
But now, if you're Pittsburgh Knights, you have to hope that Eunited is as willing to take these fights against you in okay spots as they were in Game 1.
Right.
Eunited, I think, has to clean up their objective play a little bit, be a little bit more ready for Pittsburgh Knights' potential comeback. But they learned, I mean, they saw the blueprint in Game 1, right? They saw what Pittsburgh Knights are going to do. They're going to try and let adapting 1v1 your backline. They're going to try and rush an objective if you're doing the Fury. They're going to go to fire. I mean, these are the things that we saw from them in Game 1, and that was a very similar position. I don't see why we wouldn't see it here in Game 2, except they're even further behind this time.
And I want to keep an eye on Iceice's build. Last time he went with a Witchblade in this slot, and it looks like he's doing that again. But Benji also has the hide of the Nemean Lion. They are not going to let adapting be the one that pulls this game back from the brink. It was the same in Game 1. There was itemization specifically to stop this adapting-focused build. Now, it's the Wingblade here this time from him, but it shows that there is some ideas from United towards slowing down this Bakasura.
He might end up going Witchblade next because it's so good into the composition that Pittsburgh Knights has. I would be kind of surprised if he doesn't go it this time around.
Sure.
But, I mean, you don't have to be worried about adapting right now.
Agreed.
He's got 2 items. I mean, compare that to what iceicebaby has. He has a full 2 items over him. It's rough. It's a rough time to be a jungler right now in this game if you're, well, not if you're Iceice, I suppose. Only if you're on the side of PK. Being the same level as the enemy support makes you feel like you can't play the game. And to be frank, you really can't.
It's a bit rough now for adapting. There was a good shield there from EmilZy. There was a dash taunt from Chulainn on the Deathwalker that might have spelt his end, but EmilZy slowed that down. Some counter warding here around the Fire Giant means that Eunited controls some vision, so the Knights might feel forced, even if there's not much of a commit, to come in and check. They have one ward on the top side of that Fire Giant pit, like right where emilitoo is now, to give them some information, but really that's about it. That's the only oasis in a desert of no information.
May as well go towards these towers. If you're United, you've got an Oni wave coming down each end. This is going to be an easy tier 1. No way Pittsburgh Knights defend this. Seems like they might be willing to defend on this tier 2, but adapting on the left-hand side, if I'm a United, I'm more than happy to take this fight.
And they are indeed going to get this Fire Giant started up. And as I was sort of laying out earlier, the Knights don't have a ton of information. They've got an idea, though. Deathwalker will come check in person. But that means a nice dash. Two-man taunt from Chulainn sets everything up. Now, those are the tanks. They don't immediately melt, but that gets rectified shortly. EmilZy going to have to take a seat.
Perfect. Hey, is Chulainn' Athena good?
It's real good, yeah.
He ends up doing a lot on this pick, and he has looked so good as of late. And United has as well. Not a coincidence.
Not at all. Adapting not going to try and make the rotation. It's going to keep power farming over there. It looks like so is Zyrhoes, so they'll send iceicebaby to deal with him. And because the Defender of Olympus is suddenly a 2v1, not much Zyrhoes can do there. I like that he holds onto the relics because he's dead to rights.
No doubt about it. Tier 2 tower, no chance for adapting on that one. Benji even teleports in to be sure. The Pittsburgh Knights get a little bit of something. They get a couple tier 1s. This is a team that's historically been very good at splitting the map, and they show that they're willing to do it right there, but eventually Eunited can just do that Fire Giant in the face of these tanks. Right now, still a little bit early. They're taking a little bit too much damage. They just don't have the HP pools from leveling up naturally in order to get it done, but we're only 2 levels away from that really not being the case. emilitoo, BigManTingz, all very close to level 20.
At least though the Fire Giant did not go down, as EmilZy yet again was right there for another Geb shield. I know it hasn't looked like it, but EmilZy has actually been relatively on point with this Geb so far this game, finding some nice shields to prevent what could have been much worse for the Knights. But down 9,000 gold, and with the United threatening another Fire Giant, they might not even need to. Chulainn comes in for a taunt, but doesn't find much. So it's time for the collapse circle of protection. Spells the end for Chulainn, and suddenly they don't have their Athena. But that hasn't stopped Eunited. They're continuing to surge forward. In fact, Benji goes into the ultimate.
Zyrhoes' ultimate dissuades the aggression, though, and Pittsburgh Knights do manage to force back Eunited. They got another. This is exactly what we saw from them in Game 1, though, Finch. I mean, they commit everything to killing a tank. That was literally 4 ults to kill Chulainn, and then Zyrhoes is to get them out. So that's every ultimate you've got in order to try and kill Kalas, and they do so successfully. That stems the bleeding a bit, but Kalas is going to spawn in 5 seconds, and he has his ult. He's got Defender of Olympus. He'll be right back and ready to tank up this Fire Giant, and the United's going to be more than happy to take a fight alongside it.
They'll have an upgraded Frenzy to their name as well. So of course they'll be excited to take the fight. iceicebaby brings Kalas in. They're not even going to go right for the Fire Giant. They might be able to catch out Deathwalker and taunt, but another good shield from emilZy. Stop me if you've heard that one. And the United make their way back to the pit.
This is exactly how you play this Geb versus Athena matchup. As Geb, you sit there and wait, and you have your finger hovered over 3, and you just wait until someone gets taunted, and then you just shield them instantly, stay back. You cannot afford to be the one to get taunted.
Right.
And that's where Kalas's blink might be perfect. If emilZy's grouped up with a lot of these carries, then that can certainly be a problem.
Adapting is still on this farming mission on the left-hand side. And I don't know if this is a call that Knights believe they can deter that Fire Giant in a 4v5, or if they're not too concerned if it does end up getting taken. But Adapting desperately needed the farm, and now he's got
No good secure from United up against the circle of protection from Vote makes it hard to want to commit to a Fire Giant at this point. I think waiting for Fury is fine. This is a good amount of time that United's been sitting on their hands. They've got all these blinks. I mean, get in there and get your hands dirty, get some relics, and then try and reset those fights. Let Adapting push if he wants to, but you got to do something with the time that he's not there.
I agree. I mean, if Adapting is making a gamble, then you never made him roll the dice. You know, you got to at least, you know, kind of make them become good on that other half of that trade they're thinking they can make, which is that 4v5 defense here on the Fire Giant. But so far, United still playing it safe, and they're still up, you know, 10,000 gold. That window is not by any means closed at all. Just, I think there might have been some opportunities where they could have already jumped through.
Emilitoo not going to be on the left side. He's going to stand and make his watch as iceicebaby and BigManTingz make quick work of this Gold Fury. Might be enough to finish off some key items. Emilitoo probably has enough for Telkines now. Maybe enough for Titan's Bane for BigManTingz.
Yeah.
And you've got to start taking fights soon because the power items are coming up for Zyrhoes and Adapting. Adapting will have Executioner soon. Zyrhoes will have Chin Size soon. Or maybe an Aussie even for Zyrhoes, as he doesn't have any lifesteal in the kit yet. Still an option.
This might be trouble now for emilZy. A bit of a collapse. He's been taunted back in. That forces Cataclysm early. And as you said before, it's not even about necessarily killing this level 12 Geb here, but he does not have the Cataclysm now for this defense, and United go right back to the FG to force the Knights in. Another taunt, that's the shield now from Deathwalker, and they continue to force out answers from the Knights.
Really good poke on the Benji. Benji's gone with this pretty aggressive build style. It does not have a lot of magical defense at all. In fact, it's only this Void Stone and Stone of Binding with a little bit each. And so these Spirit Balls from Vo, they're hard to miss on a target as big as Jorm, and they are chunking him for about 450 a pop.
He's been hurting. Look at Ice build, though. We were talking earlier about a potential Witchblade coming out. It's Frostbound Hammer, which does a lot of the same stuff. Like, honestly, if he's trading out with Adapting, then he is going to be reducing the attack speed. So maybe not the Witchblade, but certainly the same mentality is there.
Could still go for an Ichabal as well to take away some of that power if he really wants to go for the 1v1 trade style. Ice really did go for a more tanky in the middle of the team fight build last time around. Might stick with that this game, but could also decide that if Adapting's going to try and 1v1 my backline, I'll just 1v1 him, and Erlang Shen certainly has the potential to win that boxing trade.
So we've got a good idea of what Ice wants to do in these next few engagements, and we already talked about Kalas. He's the one that's trying to find that perfect two-man taunt, emilZy +1, ideally Vote or Zyrhoes, and then that can really set that fight up. So we know a lot of what United are looking for in these next fights, but what is it that they're seeing that they dislike? Because they still really have not pulled the trigger. It's been a couple of these small engagements, and then they've disengaged as Benji takes 60%. It's
really been this Vote Spirit Ball sort of stuffing their initiation over and over and over again. This front line, as soon as Kalas is about to find a taunt, silence. Then Benji gets stunned, and you just don't have the options to really deal with that. Now Kalas finds double taunt on the right. That's a different story.
Adapting has to use Regurgitate defensively. Two-man Spirit Ball does bring Ice down a bit lower, but he's able to heal up just fine with the 9 turns Blessing. And that might have finally been enough because Zyrhoes' ultimate was used as well.
3 ults used. Kalas, great Cataclysm from emilZy, prevents that taunt. But again, all it does is prevent the taunt. emilZy doesn't get a whole lot of value out of Cataclysm itself. And I believe BigManTingz insta-cleanse Kalas anyways.
Frenzy now used by Eunited on the Fire Giant. We might not even get to finish talking about it. The Fire Giant's already been burned. It can much easier take the fight now. Deathwalker finds some healing, but it's nowhere near enough. emilitoo finds that kill. Suddenly a 5v4 plus FG in the United's favor.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Knights were doing such a good job of playing slow and patiently, and they were getting farm, they were catching up, and they were getting there, and then just get caught on the right-hand side. They just have two members who are pushing a wave, end up getting caught on the right, and that really does open the door for Eunited. Not having emilZy there, you just can't be in a position to get taunted without that Gep shield.
United, 4 members strong, and here's the Defender of Olympus from Collis to make it 5 to threaten the right side Phoenix. And by threaten, I mean take it, because the Knights can't defend without Deathwalker. He's that true front line for them. emilZy really wants to be doing a little bit more of that cleansing with the Gep shield. And United recognize that, walk right in and take it. They might even be able to grab this tier 2 in mid. They don't have any waves pushed up at this point, is the only thing slowing them down.
Play it a little bit slower, go for Pyromancer. Oni Fury respawns in a minute, so you can get some of that gold spent, end up going back to base, get your Oni Fury, start pushing the left-hand side and mid, while your Oni waves do the dirty work on the right-hand side. Oni Fire waves, pretty good at threatening the Titan or anything in their way.
Still just the Frostbound. I want to see what iceice backs and chooses to do with this Assassin's Blessing, but he's chilling. We'll have our view in a moment. Odibo there for BigManTingz. That's going to spread a lot more damage, and he was already doing a good deal of damage in that last fight. I think he was the one that was able to bring Zyrhoes down so low towards the beginning. It's a Brawlers that he goes for. No.
Thought about it.
Okay.
Sold it. Chin size.
Like it better.
Okay, I like the chin size. I really think Icaval is really underpurchased. I know Scream's a big fan of that auto attack centric Erlang Shen build that can include that Icaval, and I think it is really, really good. It makes it pretty much impossible to lose a 1v1. It's so much power, it's attack speed, you're reducing their power. I think it could have been pretty solid here.
And this is so impressive though from Eunited. It's 2 games in a row where it really hasn't even looked like it's up for debate, you know, who was going to win the games. I mean, in Game 1, it was relatively dominant all the way through, and Game 2 has so far been the same case. Now, the problem in Game 1 was that the Knights actually had a pretty stalwart defense with that Merlin on their team. Isis, I feel like, can do a lot of that same work.
She can, but it's not great at clearing the wave. It's much better poke. It's CC poke, which is great because it lets everyone else follow up off of you really well. But you have to either extend the Spirit Ball to clear the wave, and then all your poke is gone, or you're stepping up and wind gusting, and then you die and you insta-lose. So Isis definitely has a bigger upside, I would say. If you find a max range Spirit Ball, it really does a lot.
emilZy Blink Cataclysm on the BigManTingz. That does get the beads from him, but not a whole lot else. It'll be a 3-2 split from United. 3 on this left-hand side, 2 in mid. It's emilitoo and Benji, and then Tingz, iceice, and Collis threatening in left.
Man, this is 2 games in a row now where emilZy's not bottom of the player damage charts on his own team. This time it's both Adapting and Zyrhoes below him. Boy's got to do a bit more damage.
I agree. I mean, Adapting hasn't made this Bakasura look particularly inspiring in either game, if I'm being honest. He spent the whole game waiting for a moment that United have not presented.
I don't know, man. It's just the Zyrhoes hasn't looked super comfortable on the Xbalanque, I don't think. I mean, his ultimates are well-timed if things are going perfectly, but like the left Phoenix is a perfect example. There's no way BigManTingz isn't beating that. Save the ult.
Deathwalker has been forced a little bit further forward, I think, than he'd like. That means the Fatal Strike has to come out. Benji working together there with Collis, clean him up, vote all the way back to base. Though iceicebaby quite low in the back too, as mid Phoenix comes down. Left side Phoenix not under threat just yet, but now United make the rotation over. emilitoo way out in front. Taunt lands on Zyrhoes, the Gep shield there, but no follow-up damage, and Adapting gets to Emil before he can get the rewind off.
Yeah, not the best pathing there from emilitoo.
No, that was weird.
Ambitious to say the least. But at the end of the day, you get mid Phoenix. Right side Phoenix is going to respawn, but it'll be weakened. Not perfect on that siege, but
still really good.
United got something.
Still a lot of other stuff they wanted, but I agree. I mean, it was a very kind of slow rotation over towards left and a bit fractured, and then Collis dashes and taunts, and he's right, you know, to want to go and grab that taunt on the left-hand side, but it does mean that there's no one to stop Adapting from doing the Adapting things onto Emil, and they end up losing him there.
So now United, I mean, they're going to be full build across the board now.
Feels
They've got
good.
everything. Pittsburgh Knights, no one full build yet. No one even that close. I mean, Vote is building towards what I imagine will be a Rod. That's what he went in that 6-item slot on the Olorun. But that's a vast, very expensive item. It's going to take him a long time to finish it.
The Knights had 3 Phoenixes down last game, and though they didn't win, they stretched the game out a good bit past that. Can they somehow perform a miracle yet again? Fire Giant has now respawned, and looks like the Knights are considering at least showing some presence here. Now, this would be a very difficult fight for them to win. They're down 22,000 gold.
Again, United just doesn't have the secure to guarantee this fire. And if you're United at this point, are you willing to take the 60-40 in your favor to maybe lose the game? I mean, it's 31 minutes in. There's enough itemization on the other side for Pittsburgh Knights. If we get wiped here, if we're United, we might outright lose. So they already looked pretty hesitant in the first place when they were going for this Fire Giant. Now that there's a threat of actually losing the game if things go really poorly, might be even more hesitant.
There's the ultimate from Zyrhoes. That must mean the Knights are planning to go aggressive, which is the call. Deathwalker blinks in along with EmilZy, gets taunted back, and that's the Geb shield now on cooldown. Very interesting start there from the Knights, and I mean, honestly, I don't think they get very much from it at all.
No, Deathwalker gets poked, still has the ultimate, but iceicebaby's lurking. Deathwalker goes in. Zyrhoes protection needs to be used. That's going to heal, but not a lot.
Yeah, Tingz doesn't have a dash now. He used it to push back Deathwalker, but inside the ultimate, he can find a res, gets the kill, and the execute's not there, so Tingz is still alive. Deathwalker trying to clean up, but that's a double for Tingz. Takes down 2, and the Knights with 5 members up can push just EmilZy and Vote, the duo lane of old, left to try and defend.
iceicebaby has some help from his longtime teammate, Kalas. EmilZy might end up being the target here, as he's just so low. And indeed he will be. Kalas puts him down, and United gonna be 1 game away from a clean sweep.
Over the Knights. I doubt anyone that isn't directly associated with the United org would have predicted that one. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, obviously. They're only up 2-0, but this is still impressive in its own right. And Knights now twice at the end of the game have gone for 2 sort of Hail Mary plays. Like the Fire Giant at the end of game 1 that they end up losing and losing the game there.
Yep.
And then this ultimate from Zyrhoes, which I guess kind of telegraphs that dive attempt?
Yeah, I'm good on Zyrhoes Xbalanque. Don't need to see that again. We tried it. It failed. I want to see EmilZy off the Geb. I mean, he's played very, very well. But you need something that will fight with you in the early game. Think back to Pittsburgh Knights games against some of the best competition in the league. EmilZy's picking Xing. He's playing aggressively. He's jumping in. He's doing a lot of damage by himself. That's the identity that Pittsburgh Knights need to get back to if they want to come back in this game, because they've just gotten blown out in the mid 3v3 in these last 2 games, and it's not working. This game plan isn't working.
Agreed.
And that's where it's really hard as a pro team, because you spend weeks game planning for Eunited. This is what we're going to pick. This is what we think is good. And then when you get just crushed in the first 2, it's a tough balance to strike. Do we stick with what we practiced and what we thought was good, or do we try to adjust on the fly?
Those adjustments, as you said, can be really difficult to make, but the Knights are out of time. They absolutely have to make them now as we start to get ready, prepping for Game 3.
INAP, powering the control room for the SMITE Pro League.
That's right, get your tickets for highresexpo.com now. The cosplays every year at the World Championships are always a sight to be seen, so I'm excited to see what the fans at home have created this year, because they always go above and beyond, and there's been a few gods this year that I'd be surprised if they don't get a bit of attention to them. But so far today, we're all talking about this first set between Eunited and Pittsburgh Knights, and 2 games down, the second game goes the way of Eunited again. Tolly here to break it down with me, and Tolly, what happened there? What went wrong for the Knights?
A lot went wrong, honestly. I'm just not in love with Pittsburgh Knights' draft. The Bakasura synergy with the Isis we thought was going to go mid, it's even less synergetic with the Xbalanque. Very early first blood, unfortunately for Zyrhoes. Didn't really respect the engagements. We'll see that a little bit later. But a lot of it came down to the early aggression from iceicebaby, and yet again for BigMan to clean it up in the late game.
Yeah, and it worked out so well for United as the game continued. And I think the core and we saw Aggro and Finch discussing that on the cast. Is it the 3-man core? We've seen this EmilZy pick for Geb. He's played it very well, but the synergy's not there with them at all. They're losing these 3v3 trades, and it's causing them problems.
It really is. Geb makes a lot of sense. Controls a lot of space. You want it. It's a great counter towards Athena being able to cleanse the taunt, but there's just too much CC for one lonely Geb to cleanse. And speaking of non-cleansing, Zyrhoes holding onto the beads, and he takes a very early spill. Multiple times, iceicebaby rotates over, utilizing this Athena global pressure to shut down Vote. At 11 minutes in the game, iceicebaby has all of United's kills, and Callus being a part of every single one of them.
And just notice that Vote was level 10 on that gank, and iceicebaby, I believe, was only level 6 or 7. So a bit of a different story there as the pressure continued over to this duo lane. Just continue to focus the Isis down.
And this is the one problem with mages in the long lane, especially when your tier 1 tower is gone. You just get destroyed, especially against global pressure, and this is where Eunited started to flex their guns. They had the same exact lead that they had in game number 1, but this time with more CC. They were baiting out Pittsburgh Knights so many different occasions of trying to come in and funnel through these corridors to contest Fire Giant. Multiple taunts getting off was a great win for these team fights, and BigMan reviving was basically the last nail in the coffin.
Definitely, and the execute towards the tail end from Deathwalker, it was on the money. It just wasn't an execute. Threshold range was the reason. So BigMan does survive and get the double kill there to allow United to slowly close out that game. It's a great performance from them. They've seemed to have Pittsburgh Knights' number so far in the series.
They really do. I think it's not going to come down to just BigMan's obviously great offensive plays, but what set that up was Callus going in with the dash taunts, getting defensive cataclysms just to immune the taunt was a great look towards getting that first Fire Giant 25 minutes in.
Yeah, I think we're discussing the Geb quite a bit. Nobody believes Geb's a bad pick overall at all. I just think in the style and synergy that this team is trying to put on the paper in terms of their composition, they need someone to be a little bit more aggressive in that early game. Geb doesn't really bring that.
And Bakasura doesn't bring that early game aggression either, or at least you could, but you have to kind of force it sometimes. It doesn't naturally develop, and because of that lack of early pressure, EmilZy fell behind so often. He was 4 levels behind consistently in that later portion of the game.
And then one thing I want to bring up is about maybe Jibba to the duo lane, Isis to the mid would have changed that completely, I feel, because the Geb would have been fine, but they would have had more control in that middle area.
Yeah, I just don't see the synergy between Isis Xbalanque, or sorry, Isis Bakasura, or even Xbalanque Bakasura. I just not in love with PK's draft.
I mean, I can see Xbalanque Bakasura can Darkest the Knights, you know, as well as, you know, the ultimate regurgitate coming into play. Like, make it dark, they don't know where he's coming from, and then the ult comes through. That makes some sense to me.
Without the stun, since we removed it, it makes it a little bit trickier to get off. If you had a third tool into the equation, some kind of global presence, like maybe a Jormungandr or a Ram to clean up whatever the Bakasura started, that would make more sense with the Isis or with the Xbalanque Bakasura. But for now, adapting has just been really quiet so far this set.
Well, he has played the Bakasura 2 games in a row. We'll find out if Knights do switch it up this time. And they're going to switch it up in picks and bans a little bit here. They banned Anhur in Game 2 after the performance of BigManTingz in Game 1 on Anhur. But this time around, they're going to open it up with the Erlang Shen ban.
That's something that iceicebaby is playing so often. 6 different times. His highest played god thus far in the 17 games he's played in Phase 2.
Very potent on in that particular last game as well. You saw quite a few kills towards the Isis and the mid lane as well. Knights then adjusting based off what they've seen out of United so far. Erlang, Shen, Anhur off the table. United did end up leaving up Isis last game, and Knights chose it for themselves, but it didn't end up working out.
If I'm PK, I'm banning Chronos as well. Like, I'm leaving everything good on the table, trying to get either Thor, which is banned away, maybe Isis potentially. Olorun is another good first pick.
quite possible as well. The Olorun has been picked in that first game, I believe, but Pittsburgh Knights now, with their last option, it will be the Chronos, you called it. So all focus towards the 3 gods that have been terrorizing Eunited so far. Eunited with one more ban themselves, and will it be the Thoth, or will they let that through? They respect Zyrhoes' Thoth quite clearly, with 2 bans towards it so far.
First game they banned away Thor, Osiris, Thoth. Second game it was Thor, Set, and Thoth, so I wouldn't be surprised if they respect it yet again. But instead, without the Erlang Shen, I don't think they want to let the Isis go through.
It almost feels like a little bit of a situation of Knights maybe think first pick Thoth here because they're scared of it, but that could actually end up trapping them into a situation that United are ready for.
Yeah, I don't know if United are going to pick Thoth if PK don't.
That's what I'm thinking too. That's why I don't think if you PK, you don't first pick Thoth here. I don't think you do that.
Yeah, but then what do you pick, right? I guess a Muzen is good for mid control.
But then again, it doesn't have much of an escape, and that's something we've seen Zyrhoes lean on quite heavily. He loves to have some sort of escapability. I think it's one of the reasons we saw the Xbalanque in the mid lane, not the Isis.
I would love to see Athena yet again for Eunited. The way Callus played it in Game 2 was so solid, and against the Muzen that has no escape, hard to get away.
Oh, well, they will take the Thoth for themselves here, United, respecting that pick from Zyrhoes a lot. Obviously, a Muzen is definitely flexible towards the mid or the duo lane, but a lot of the times we've seen this Thoth come out from PK. I believe Zyrhoes has gone to the duo lane with it, actually.
He does, but with Eunited playing the Thoth, it's going to be probably in the hands of emilitoo. He's played it 3 times already in Phase 2, so I'm expecting it to still be in this long lane. Vote needs to be aggressive to try to abuse the Thoth.
And some more global rotations coming in here as Ratatoskr now selected. The Athena's still on the table, and I do like that look, you know, going for the Athena could be a good option here for United. Just because the bees keep you in combat so heavily that you're not going to have those blinks available to force the engagers sometimes.
Yeah, I'm expecting Merlin now to be in the hands of Zyrhoes in this long lane against the Thoth. He's very familiar with that matchup.
For sure, yeah.
So expecting Vote in the Muzen also because it's probably a little easier to kill the Muzen in the long lane, and we see what United was able to do on Vote in Game 2. They dismantled the non-mobile Isis.
They're also going to give Deathwalker this King Arthur nice and early here before the caravan phase. Bit of a priority pick for the solo laner, so PK holding on to their support options this time round. I believe they drafted Geb quite early in both games.
They did, as that's something that EmilZy's not really known for in Phase 2. That was his first 2 Geb games in all of Phase 2. He was leaning really on the Ganesh a lot in Phase 2, but that's kind of been straying away. And with this draft, Ganesh wouldn't be too bad. That turn of faith amplifying the damage of the AMC and Merlin.
Jormungandr selected from United, so solo lane is pretty much locked in here. No real surprises. King Arthur versus Jormungandr. A tale as old as time, at least in Season 6, with them both being released. And United will now ban the Geb to make sure emilZy can't look at it again.
Yeah, I expect maybe a Ganesh, another ban from Eunited to focus out the support player. emilZy has been struggling this set, not because of his own play, but what Eunited was able to bring on the offensive side. So all these first bloods for Eunited, they transition into controlling the neutral camps, very early Gold Furies on top of it. PK is always not even 1 step behind, but like 2 or 3 steps behind.
Ares, Athena, and Geb are the support bans. There's also a throw of a Naja towards PK, just in case we do see a bit of Naja in the support role. Or, not only that, the jungle for adapting, because he hasn't got a god selected just yet. The Xing 10 one more time, starting to see more play. PK going to go with the Kumbhakarna, much better for the setup option. I'm just not so fond of the epic uppercuts when you don't have a big ultimate to follow up with.
Well, you might have a Typhoon waiting for you on the bottom once you land, so that's pretty good. Stinger as well does a lot of damage. That's basically a single target mage nuke, so that's a good shot.
Cupid is the last pick here.
Cripple.
It is all about the cripple, right? Shuts down Merlin a little bit. King Arthur is going to have some trouble, as is Susano.
I like it. It's good defensive peel as well if Kumbhakarna is going to be looking to engage with the blink potentially, the slows on top of the cripple. The Xing Chen Fury's Roar is a good idea to limit what AMC is going to bring to the late game.
I like United's comp more. It just feels like there's more synergy there in terms of when this team gets into a team fight, all the ultimates go off and they all are in the same sort of area. You know, the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel into a Cupid ultimate, all the other way around. You still got Ratatoskr to help set this up.
They have a good setup as well.
Yeah.
Xing Chen knock up into Thoth, long range, hieroglyphic assault damage is good. You got the global pressure like you mentioned, so I think United's draft a little bit better.
Well, let's find out if Knights can answer back, or do United take this at 3-0? Let's get it over to the casters to find out.
And into Game 3 we go, and no, the graphics are not swapped around. United's absolutely up 2 right now over the Knights, and it hasn't been particularly close. And I don't know, man, Ryan, again, I'm thinking that United might have won this picks and ban phase. I know that there's more popular stuff right now over on the Knights' side, but this composition from United is pretty scary.
The Cupid mid, always something that can go really well or really poorly.
Sure.
It's been a thing for a long, long time in SMITE. Shoutouts to Mesa to Face way back in the day. But I really feel like this game hinges on how much pressure can Zyrhoes get on this AMC. I love the Pittsburgh Knights first pick this AMC for Zyrhoes, get him on something that we know he's comfortable on, and can actually get you guaranteed pressure. United's mid 3v3 fight is still good, but Pittsburgh Knights is the best it's been so far this set.
Yeah.
And as a result, I think their odds are as good as they've been all day.
And they're definitely in the best spot that we've seen them yet, I would say, based on this 3v3 that they've gotten for themselves. And really, their composition's pretty scary, too. It's just that this cripple field from Cupid, from BigManTingz, is going to be such a problem for just about everyone on the Knights, except for AMC, who wasn't planning on going anywhere anyway. And I do feel like sometimes Zyrhoes, even when he has a pressure pick, doesn't apply that pressure that often. He can kind of sit back a little bit in that middle lane. So as long as he uses some Muzen Cobb, then they're in a good spot.
I think that overall, Pittsburgh Knights have a much better shot in this game because of that. And Vote's still playing this carry potential god in the Merlin. He can still make great plays. Deathwalker is on a much more aggressive selection that can invade very effectively on the King Arthur. I like what Rowe and the boys put together this time around. EmilZy's on a much more aggressive god, and the Kumbhakarna can really run it down with this pick. I like it a lot.
And it looks like this time Vote was ready for this early gank from iceicebaby. They've got 2 wards on their left-hand side, and it was definitely coming. iceicebaby has the blink and the fully upgraded acorn at this point. Vote would likely have been dead.
Clearly doing their homework a little bit. Ice is going to be fine even without the Assassin's Blessing. He can go back and buy it as soon as he gets that 700 gold. He will be behind in stacks, down 14 right now to Adapting, because Adapting just has it outright. And that does delay that little bit of pen that you get, but Ratatoskr is so great at dealing damage early that you're okay either way.
Close. iceicebaby might have been able to close that gap to catch up to the flicker, but without blink, I think Vote would have likely been fine there either way, as emilitoo considers moving in for that evade and punish. So a couple of other areas that have really worked for United this set. They've invaded this blue buff a lot, and it looks like they're looking for a collapse in the jungle. Won't find that. Adapting makes it out. Everything's A-okay. They've been invading this blue buff from Deathwalker a lot, and they've had good pressure on Vote in the long lane. On this Merlin with some extra early wards, that should slow that down.
Yep.
And then this time Deathwalker's on the King Arthur, which can box very, very well over in the solo lane. I think they got a good chance to cut off both of those avenues.
But United has so much control with this team composition. I mean, so much long-range damage from emilitoo's Thoth. And then the CC chain possibility between BigManTingz and Kalos. We saw in game 1, Kalos would blink in, use that hook slam, and end up setting up for Death with Fury. You don't even need to spend an ultimate with a character like Cupid. You could just toss it Heart Bomb, and sometimes that'll be enough to get the kill alongside Kalos' damage. So certainly big burst potential from United. It's a matter of if Pittsburgh Knights can target select well enough and shut down iceicebaby a little bit on this Ratatoskr in the early game.
BigManTingz going to be going for, looks like the Warrior Tab by first, then a Transcendence right on the back of that. Not too surprising. That's part of why Cupid can feel like he chunks so much. He can build into that Transcendence so well and then still get a ton of value out of it just from the Heart Bomb and the Fields of Love. So wouldn't be surprised if that's the pathing he takes, and looks like Zyrhoes will be relatively close behind, but might be foregoing this early boots.
Yeah, I mean, you scale at 100% on Heart Bomb, so like by power. That it makes so much sense on this character. You get a lot of it right away. As looks like PK dropped the red, but neither Vote nor Zyrhoes were there to pick it up. Little bit inefficient, I would say. I mean, you got to get that cleared as often as possible, because that means that there's more spawns of it during the game, more farm overall. But in the early game, getting an AMC, a red buff, is often the difference between a kill and not getting that kill. And so Zyrhoes not being able to pick that up doesn't feel super great to me.
And Ting's a little bit ahead of Zyrhoes here right now. Maybe when Zyrhoes gets to these back camps, that'll be evened up. But if that's the case, you do want to make sure he's got every edge he can get on this Muzen Cobb, who can oftentimes just run early games. A little bit of a Heart Bomb presence there for Adapting on the Susano, and should be able to defend these mid-harpers as well. Knights aren't too interested in that. And really, the Knights haven't been too interested in early fighting at all this set. This time. And with a Susano and AMC, we should see that change a bit.
No doubt. They will definitely be more aggressive than what we saw with the Baka, Xbalanque, Geb 3v3. Bakasura kind of thought of as an early game god, but he's really just an early game invader more than a fighter. Once he gets the Hasting Katana and the Regurgitate, sure, but oftentimes by that point, Eunited was already ahead to the point where Adapting couldn't play aggressively. Benji has some help coming in the form of iceicebaby. It's like a big collapse on this first blue.
And the Knights are ready for it. They're here waiting. Deathwalker takes iceicebaby up to the sky, who responds with a Through the Cosmos. And the United are done with this aggression. Knights bring over enough people to form as a sort of barrier and no one get in to grab it. Though it does look like emilitoo might have been able to strip away that red on the left-hand side.
Good timing. Must have just checked. I mean, there's a ward in between red and purple. That shouldn't see the red respawn. That's just you got pressure and made a guess. And look at all the aggressive wards placed by Eunited. Oh, there is a ward on red. Okay, I see it now. Kind of hugging that right-hand side. But there is a full lineup of wards starting from that left-hand side, kind of curving into red all the way down to the Pittsburgh Knights XP Harpies. Whereas most of what Pittsburgh Knights have is wards either in not in inventory in Zyrhoes' case or a defensive on the side of Eunited's map. I mean, sure, they've got the aggressive one on emilitoo's back, but that's really just to track where emilitoo is going more than anything else.
Yeah, maybe to potentially give some information if Vote is in some trouble from a gank from high up as well, too. So I agree that feels a little bit more defensive than offensive, like what Eunited were just able to do by stripping away the red buff. Looks like a Blackthorn from Ice will be the next path from him. Jade Emperor's first from Benji. The same thing that he did last game, too. Part of what can make Jorm feel so good over there in that short lane matchup. As more back camps get stripped away. This is not quite as much from Eunited, but it still seems like they're the ones that are getting away with more of these invades.
No doubt. I mean, they've got about 1,000 gold lead without any kills on the board. It's materializing from stealing away Harpies, getting these neutral camps, and we're not seeing any red buff invades at all out of Pittsburgh Knights. They just aren't playing aggressively right now at whatsoever. emilitoo's had consistent pressure on this side of the map, and that's been a reason why they can't really invade red, because Vote's always been a little bit behind in clearing.
I'm surprised they didn't try to go for a purple buff invade there, but perhaps they didn't feel comfortable with the amount of information they had, and they will be now in position to at least make a stab at this red buff invade if they so choose. Collis pushes in first, but there's 4 members of Knights on this left-hand side, so there certainly will be a defense. In fact, there certainly will be a full-on fight as the red buff now stripped away from United. Collis pushes away EmilZy, and like I said, no fight there. Why would they?
They feel so scared. I mean, to go in. There's a stinger from Zyrhoes, but EmilZy tossed right back.
Into the Fields of Love, into the knockup coming through from iceicebaby. They will need some autos to finish this off, but that's going to be an easy, clean first blood for United on the back of several invades. And at this point, it's starting to look like the Knights are just not ready for this early pressure at all. I know you were saying that they came in perhaps planning to play this set slower, but I mean, United hasn't done anything drastically different between games 1 and 2 and 3 now. They've just repeatedly gone for pressure.
I mean, right there, that was the first time that Pittsburgh Knights looked like they got something started of their own accord. And it doesn't go well, but at least they're doing something. I mean, there's signs of life. EmilZy had a blink ultimate. Zyrhoes hits BigManTingz with that stinger right away, but Ting's able to reposition well enough, and it's right when Pittsburgh Knights should know that there's a bunch of people coming from that left side jungle in order to help out. I feel for the kid EmilZy, man. He's been behind all set. I feel like he hasn't been even with Farm and Kalas past level 4 in games 1, 2, or 3, but it's because Eunited has put so much pressure in mid. They've been taking that farm that you'd expect EmilZy to be getting a decent amount of.
This is a good idea. There's not a ton of ultimates available for Eunited right now, but they weren't willing to commit. Looks like they were going to take it if they could sneak it, but not really worth fighting.
I think that's fine. I mean, Vote loses half his health for it, but likely was going to head back to base soon enough anyways. Got some life steal courtesy of the Pythags piece, so it doesn't hurt him too much. You don't lose a whole lot for that. There wasn't anything up on the map. Maybe you could have positioned better around oracles to try and get those and get that neutral farm.
Adapting in some trouble, though, and he gets blown up. Ice and Benji meet him at those Harpies, and really not a ton Adapting can do once he's in that situation. And he ends up getting blown up. Didn't even have beads for that for another minute.
I wonder if that rotation from Ice wasn't called that he was going bottom right, because He just walked right across the face of the team. Either way, that definitely shouldn't, that should have been spotted out.
United have, as they've done all set long, just kind of taken what they wanted to from the Knights, and we just have not seen much by way of resistance.
Look at the net worth charts on the left side of your screen. The 3v3, we talk about how important it is. When your 3v3 is the bottom 3 net worths in the game, things are not going well for you. I mean, 3K at 10 minutes, only 2 kills. But that's 3 red buffs in a row, I believe, that PK has lost out on. That's not going to stop. I mean, iceicebaby's on a character that pushes leads incredibly well on Ratatoskr. This Cupid can shut down a lot of the aggressive options for adapting. I mean, really, this composition from United looks to me like they just want to make sure that adapting doesn't win the game for Pittsburgh Knights in this 3v3. And they're kind of letting Zyrhoes and emilZy do what they want to do, but just feeling like they don't have to respect it too much. And honestly, with what we've seen so far from PK today, I can't blame them.
They felt like there has been some focus against adapting, at least in the build, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it in the comps as well. This is an all-in commit onto iceicebaby, who does make it to the sky. Call in some trouble, true, but Final Judgment hits Zyrhoes, and iceicebaby wipes that one up, no problem. emilZy in some trouble as well. No stun from iceicebaby, so adapting makes it out, but United find another 2 for 0.
Oh, ML tries to find adapting, won't find this kill, and Iceice doesn't have blink for 15, so no way he closes that gap. But man, emilitoo has really had a quietly great set. Game 1, we kind of poke fun because he has the 0 kill, 8k damage game, but he does his job in that one.
Yeah.
Looks great again on this Thoth, and this is what I think United really needed to take that next step. They needed that extra wrinkle in their drafts and in their picks that would give teams trouble. And I think emilitoo getting that Thoth underneath his belt and having it be a real priority pick for him that will outright win you games is exactly what United needed. Their 3v3 has been looking really good as of late, and having the side lanes, emilitoo coming up and returning to form, means that they're in a really good spot to succeed.
Well, this is desperately needed from the Knights, exactly what the Doctor ordered. A Gold Fury, essentially uncontested just because of the back timings United had to take. Does close this gap a good bit. They're going to regain control of this red buff timer as well and slow down a lot of this push from United that has gone largely uncontested here so far. But I think you're kind of right to hone in on what emilitoo's been able to do well for United as we move over to emilitoo doing some things quite well right now. That Aegis isn't quite there, and yeah, Vote can't make it out.
Poorly timed Aegis from Vote, and I just, if you're going to be rooted anyways, may as well turn and have the information at that point. You know if emilitoo's actually going to shoot that ultimate off. With your back turned, you're relying on an audio cue that is not super easy to rely on, and ends up punishing him pretty heavily. ML gets another kill. This one, the first of the game that he actually gets the kill credit for, but certainly deserves a lot of credit for the kills that have been happening for United.
emilitoo looking for damage from underneath the tower, which means he will catch that shot.
Perfect bait.
That's why adapting dashes in, but iceicebaby's there to force out the Typhoon. Adapting has to use that just to avoid dying.
I think one of the hardest things to understand and respect is emilitoo ends up baiting the blink in from emilZy with that dash. Does cost him his purification bead, so not a great situation. Is how to sell ganks and how to not telegraph that they're coming, and emilitoo just did a perfect job.
Well, Callis and Tingz on the way. iceicebaby in the sky, adapting. Hard to imagine he can make his way out of this one. Final Judgment perfectly read there from emilitoo, and he catches up to adapting. Now Tingz, though, stuck on an island, has to use the beads to get away from the Mez, and that is enough for him to stay alive. And they find yet another pick, a purple buff invade. They won't force down the tier 1, it looks like, though.
No, emilitoo too low, BigManTingz too low. BigManTingz definitely very aggressive with that positioning, catches Vote on the way back to lane. Trades beads for beads, but the fact that Vote has to go back to base again and lose out on more farm again because he just come off the respawn, I think was worth BigManTingz' time.
And adapting just too far behind iceicebaby this time, and it makes some sense. I mean, Ratatoskr is probably going to have more impact a little bit sooner than a Susano is, and can run with that lead pretty well. But I mean, this is what the whole set has looked like from adapting largely. Has been, 0-2 or 0-1 or something like that. Just not much involvement as he's kind of waiting for his moments. I think he's going to have to start making some.
But at this point, it might be too late. You kind of have to take what United gives you when you're this far behind. Yes, in the early game, maybe you can try and make something else happen, but again, I think the draft picks mean that you really can't. that's what is so difficult about MOBAs, is there's so many different elements or so many different factors to what you can and can't get away with. And I don't think Adapting was really given the tools to succeed in these drafts that Pittsburgh Knights have gone for. The 3v3s have been so much lower pressure for PK, which kind of relegates Adapting to this power farm style, which means that he feels like he can't have as much impact on the game. Now, obviously, we aren't privy to their comms. With Adapting saying, yo, definitely give me Baka here every game, and that might be a little bit different, but that's got to be the play style that the rest of the team is ready for then from Pittsburgh Knights. And I just don't think they've worked together as a unit very well so far today.
It hasn't quite felt like it. I mean, there was, it's a small play, but there was the beach from Adapting underneath the mid Phoenix when he had EmilZy right next to him on the Geb, where, he could have held onto that relic. That doesn't really change that game much, but it does kind of make you wonder if that communication's quite where it needs to be. And every time I've talked with the Knights, I'm the one that works with them for Esports Weekly, they told me that they still feel like they've got to do a little bit more in gelling with the team. But, I mean, we're approaching the finish line. You can't still be working on that kind of stuff, I don't think, if you're expecting to be a Tier 1 team.
I mean, we're in week 8 of 13 of Phase 2. You're right. We are past the halfway point, without a doubt. Not many games left for Pittsburgh Knights before the qualification stages in DreamHack Atlanta. And look, they're going to Worlds. Right. No doubt in my mind, they'll be in the top 6. They'll be on the stage. And these are players that historically have done very well on that stage. So I'm not too worried about them in that capacity. I just wonder if they're going to be ready with the likes of the Renegades and Splice and Team Rival.
Exactly. You'd love to have a little bit more recent data points to help you feel confident about them as opposed to, some stuff they've done a little bit further back. But you're right. I mean, that's part of why this team had so much attention around them when they initially formed, is that this is just a star-studded team of people who get it done when it matters most. I mean, Rival, perhaps the most consistent team across Season 4 and Season 5 when you factor in LAN performances, and that's where, Deathwalker comes from, along with Vote, and they're just made up of a team of players that get it done.
Haven't done it yet here today. 6-0 for United in this one. I mean, that is, it's been consistent good play from United. This game definitely much better for PK than game 2, only being down 3K or so at 17 minutes. Vastly different to their massive deficit in game 2, but this is where I think United's composition is at its strongest. BigManTingz has just finished off his Transcendence and his Crusher. He's looking really strong. emilitoo hits a big power spike in that Sphere of Desolation. And Pittsburgh Knights' side lanes still haven't been gotten involved quite yet. Maybe Deathwalker joining these fights is enough, but BigManTingz' Cripple Field could also be enough to just shut down what Deathwalker wants to do.
And I like this kind of bruisery build from iceicebaby, this Ratatoskr, the Blackthorn to the Shifter Shield. It's going to make it so much harder to try and do the collapse onto the Rat like you like to do after he comes down from that ultimate. You can't really prevent the big knockup, but you can at least punish him for coming in. Maybe not as much so if he kind of, is going to have that Shifter Shield proc to help him on the way out.
emilZy's taking a decent amount of poke just from Kalas and Benji. The 2 Guardians for United have done a great job of poking out emilZy, making him uncomfortable in a potential engagement. And then remember, United has that sustain courtesy of those hearts from Cupid.
emilZy starts things off with an epic uppercut onto emilitoo. emilitoo's now been grabbed by Deathwalker, and Adapting's Typhoon is there, and still emilitoo survives. And Deathwalker avoids the final judgment, a bit off the mark there from emilitoo, but doesn't matter. Deathwalker falls to iceicebaby, who takes to the sky. Still has the Through the Cosmos available, so they can re-engage on Zyrhoes in the backline. They get beads and Aegis from him. He looks for the Stinger turnaround, but it's not enough. Benji cleans up the kill.
Can't even survive even with both relics. Adapting has to use beads. BigManTingz shouldn't be able to catch him, especially with Adapting's blink, but this is going to be a Gold Fury for United unless Vote can make a big play.
He was just trying to give him some hearts. Adapting didn't want him. I can't believe it. As now Vote gets caught on the backside. iceicebaby's there, and Vote goes down as well. That means that United can certainly come back for Primal. I'd say Pyromancer if it was up, but it's not, so they can't go grab that one on the back end of this. But another one fight for them, and this is when the Knights actually started. emilZy blinked in onto emilitoo.
Yep, and everything was going pretty well. Honestly, I mean, emilitoo gets really, really weak right away. As soon as he lands, Deathwalker is right on top of him, hamstrings him so he can't dash, hits him with Excalibur's Wrath. But then, what's waiting for him when he comes down? A perfectly timed Fields of Love. The turn and burn from emilitoo is solid because he can close that gap and get away while still being able to hit him with Evade and Punish. And that's what this long-range damage provides and where this Cupid pick looks phenomenal. And then he's able to stick around because of the hearts from BigManTingz. United just keep Pittsburgh Knights' backline far enough away. That's Benji and Kalas that do a good job of keeping adapting Zyrhoes and Vote away from emilitoo. They know that Deathwalker's damage alone won't be enough, and they separate and punish Pittsburgh Knights.
9-0, 5K gold lead is enough for United to start up the FG. Deathwalker blinks in to force them off of it, but they still have the Fire Giant, at least for now, thanks to College. He will finally let it go entirely, and Deathwalker in no man's land. Final Judgment comes through, and he goes down, but that's Fields of Love and the Final Judgment, 2 big ults just on the solo laner.
Zyrhoes getting some farm on this left-hand side. Teleport is now up for Benji, and I think it might be too late. This tier 2 is gone, but Benji can stick around on this right-hand side and help out with some of the fighting.
That's not bad from Zyrhoes. Ice will go to the tree to try
blink.
and catch up. Has Blink to close the gap, but misses the stun. That's his dash down as well, and Zyrhoes has now done enough to make it out.
With adapting in tow, good choice by Ice to back it up. He
And no FG either.
should have been able to get that kill if he's able to land the stun, but even with Zyrhoes having no relics, he got far enough away.
emilitoo and the rest of the squad have to settle for the tier 1 tower now, so they can't get FG. That's not a bad sequence at all, really, for the Knights to find something on the back of that.
No.
And United don't get the FG.
No, that's actually very good. Now, Pyromancer's up. BigManTingz should be able to get this one pretty easily, nearly by himself, even without a whole lot of lifesteal. But Pittsburgh Knights close the gap, only down about 4K now.
The Knights recognize Pyromancer's going, so they want to try and slow it down. EmilZy blinks in, so this isn't just a defense, this is a full-on fight. Final Judgment charge that hits EmilZy in the back, so his life is forfeit, all to try and contest around this Pyromancer. They do at least force the Final Judgment on cooldown again, but it cost them a life.
Yeah, but that one is a frustration contest, I think, from Pittsburgh Knights. I mean, that is the difference between your deficit with a Pyromancer and without a Pyromancer is very small right now, but EmilZy needs to stay on the map and keep getting farm. Now this opens the door for United to start sieging a little bit, maybe put pressure on that Fire Giant with Frenzy back up for Kalas. Good news is emilitoo doesn't have the secure necessarily with that Final Judgment, but no great steal options from Pittsburgh Knights. Typhoon probably their best.
Benji, though, did delay a couple of backs, so some people cancel them, which means they won't have had a chance to back and spend any of that gold. Fire Giant at half HP now. Frenzy popped. United all in on this commit. Zyrhoes, though, makes it out thanks to a really big Typhoon from adapting, but Benji wants to keep this going. He's doing so much damage, but can't afford to dive a tier 2 by himself. He'll come back to the FG with the squad.
Deathwalker's looping around the back. There's no Frenzy this time. Final Judgment still down.
He blinks in to try and do some damage to the back line, but United is going to commit. United grab the FG, and now they can take the fight on the back end. Epic Uppercut already expended onto Tingz, but gets away from Deathwalker, and that costs him his life as well. iceicebaby gets kill credit. United 12-0, and the Fire Giant.
It might be more than 12. Adapting CC chain can't even teleport to that jet stream. And EmilZy might be casualty number 14 if he can't get away. It looks like he'll be all right, but United still gets their pick of which objectives they want.
I didn't expect this, Ryan. You didn't expect this, Ryan.
No.
But I think least of all, the Knights did not expect this, man. They do not look ready for this set, plain and simple. United have come in more prepared, and they've rocked them. 2.5 games now in a row, and on the precipice of completing the third. That means now they're up 2-0. They've got Fire Giant ready to threaten this right side Phoenix. There's only 3 here from the Knights to defend, and it just feels like they can't let more go at this point and still trying to hold on to this game. But that's it. The right side Phoenix burns down.
They just can't step up. I mean, Zyrhoes, no relics, no beats for Vote. They've got no shot at getting in there to defend that Phoenix. It's the right call to let it go, because otherwise you might just lose the game outright. But it sure feels like that's the direction we're heading in. I mean, United's up nearly 10K. They're going to get an Oni Fury off this back if Pittsburgh Knights can't burn it down in time. That's the best shot for PK, is to get this objective while they can.
That does appear to be the call, is to move towards it. They don't have as much information as they'd like, but they don't have a choice. They have to just full-on commit to this. They'll grab the Oni Fury here. United aren't quite close enough, and this is a little bit of something, you know, to get started with. They'll have to fall back and be prepared to defend on these Phoenixes. I doubt tier 2 fights are in the cards for them. United can push in and add even more gold to the coffers.
I agree with your assessment, man. I just don't think I don't think the Pittsburgh Knights were unprepared. I just don't think they were ready for the style that Eunited was going to play today. As Vote baits iceicebaby, but Ice has that ultimate ready. Aegis is up for Vote, so he should be okay here. No way he gets killed with that Aegis up.
And iceicebaby doesn't commit, but this whole time the rest of his team is threatening the tier 2 and the tier 1 happening in duo, so those both end up falling. I should really be helping make sure this wave gets pushed up, but he's just kind of chilling in front of the tier 2. The mini wave will certainly eventually get there, as he'll be there for the speed buff spawn too. This is where the Knights now must buckle down on these last 2 remaining Phoenixes. They've got the Merlin back on their side, and really the Muzen Cobb. Their base defense actually shouldn't be too bad.
Shouldn't be, but I don't know about 25 minutes, 13K deficit good.
Sure.
I mean, that's an awful lot. That's an uphill battle, but they don't have too long to worry. I mean, only about a minute left on a United's Fire Giant. They took their time getting a lot of what they wanted on that back. So maybe it's, 2-3 waves, and Pittsburgh Knights should be in the clear.
You've got 2 in left, iceicebaby lurking in between, and 2 in middle to keep Pittsburgh Knights split. And that's what the United has done well all set long, is just split up the Knights. It's really looked like they've never gotten to set their feet as 5 and play up against United. Now 4 in mid to threaten this middle Phoenix, and just Benji in left. He doesn't even want left. He's going to loop all the way around, and already EmilZy has been caught out into the passive and sent to the grave.
Pittsburgh Knights on different pages. EmilZy's there to defend. The rest of the team isn't. That's an easy pick for Eunited. Cost them 2 ultimates, but that's well worth it.
And a mid-Phoenix now, too, and I think United are done playing games, and they're done playing around. They're right outside the Titan room, but can't push in there yet. Let's head over to left Phoenix. Only about 10 seconds left on that Fire Giant, but they can still get it.
emilitoo doesn't find that evade and punish dash, and here comes Deathwalker.
Adapting drops the Typhoon to disrupt the push, but there's the Fields of Love, and everyone's stuck inside it. Vote and Deathwalker both have been mez, but look how low the backline of United are. Adapting gets emilitoo. And so the left side Phoenix still stands. The Knights bend but don't break.
All credit to Vote right there, man. He had a great combo there with that Arcane Merlin stance, able to pull back in BigManTingz and Kalas and separate that fight very nicely. He saves the game potentially on that left side Phoenix.
I think this set is what is at times frustrating about being an United fan, though, for some of those people, because there are sets where they look like this.
Yep.
They're all the time. United has sets where they look like they can beat the top end, but then they also have sets, up against SK or LG, right? Where you're like, well, come on, this is the sets I'm expecting you all to win, and they can't quite clean those up, which makes it hard to have confidence with them going into the big sets. But they've got this upside, man. They always have, and right now it's on full display. The Knights look lost.
They do.
That was their first kill.
Yeah, I guess you're right, that was. And it's emilitoo dashing aggressively underneath the Phoenix that gets you there. You're totally right. This is a United team. We talk about it a lot. I mean, Anatoly's been telling me on Esports Weekly as their correspondent, this could be a top 3 team. And they're beating a top 3 team right now. I mean, that's exactly where Pittsburgh Knights are in the standings. So you expect them to have a pretty good performance, but that has not been the case.
EmilZy not able to find the epic uppercut. iceicebaby's taken to the sky, but Deathwalker has already been brought down to critical condition, and iceicebaby takes him off life support. That's going to be it for Deathwalker, but Adapting's made his way to the back line. BigManTingz RIP, but Benji finds Zyrhoes. That makes it a 2-for-1 in favor of United, and they're not in danger of slowing down. Vote now isolated, looking for the fire stance, but that's a double for Benji from the short lane, and now it's 4 up against 2. Just Adapting and EmilZy to hold on to the game, to try and hold on to the set against Eunited.
How about this right side of the map for Eunited? 5-0-5 for Benji, 5-0-9 for iceicebaby. Yeah, you're going to win games when your right side is playing that well.
It's been such an impressive performance from both of them. EmilZy looks like he is going to be the next one to be in trouble. Does find a nice mez, and that lets him reposition. Adapting's gone all the way to the back line, but it's collapse time now. Adapting not going to be able to weasel his way out of this one. EmilZy down 2. That's a deicide. That's the game, and that's the set for United. Frenzy Pop 2. Let's get him out of here.
Full sweep for the Eunited boys against
Crazy.
PK. That is incredible. What a set from Eunited. I mean, I was thinking this might be a 3-0
the other way.
Yeah. I mean, I really thought there was potential for that. We got a 3-0, but not in the way I think a lot of us expected. Impressive stuff from Eunited. And look, Pittsburgh Knights, if you're a fan of theirs, this is concerning, no doubt. But at the same time, it just feels like one of those weeks where they were practicing something against some team they felt was really good. They come in, they get hit in the mouth, they tilt off a little bit, they don't play their best, and they've got no shot at winning. I think if Pittsburgh Knights go back and study this and understand why they lost, this isn't as devastating as it looks, but you've got to be able to understand it because clearly what Pittsburgh Knights are doing in the meta right now did not work today.
Exactly. I mean, remember, Rival lost to Armada at MSI, right? And
sure,
you don't write them off because of that loss, right?
No.
It's definitely a bad one to take that they got to show us that they've overcome. But it's the same thing here. I mean, the Knights are still going to be getting a lot of betting lines, I imagine, a lot of people on their sides going into matches. But Eunited should be getting a little bit more of that too. That was a huge win.
No doubt. Eunited puts the rest of the SPL on alert that this is a team you have to take very, very seriously come Worlds time.
They could certainly make some noise. Congrats to Eunited 3-0. Doubt anyone had that set going down that way. Going to be a quick break from us. We'll be right back with the postgame and the interview.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the SMITE Pro League.
Brutal is what we just saw in Game 3 there. United take it down 3-0. Totally joining me in the desk to talk about what happened there. I thought Space Station played in the second set.
No, that wasn't the case at all.
I mean, I know they're black and yellow, but like, is it just starting to go that way now?
Apparently so. I don't know. Something seems to hinder PK, I guess, because United is a team that struggles against some of the topper teams, but not thus far in phase number 2 after this victory.
Man, they had Knight's number in that third game there as well, and it was almost a complete shutout as well, where there wasn't a kill to be seen until, well, the Titan line is where we really saw it.
Pretty much. It took 26.5 minutes until Pittsburgh Knights finally got one kill off of the siege on their duo side Phoenix.
Where did it end up coming from, Tolly? Where did they find this victory as a whole? What was the big turning point or the big sell?
A lot of it was emilitoo, honestly. The global pressure from iceicebaby, the solo kill from Emil was the beginning of the end, it felt like. But this was right after that PK snuck a Gold Fury. It was that 2-for-0 around that 11-minute team fight where United, they get 2 kills, they get the tier 1 mid tower. emilitoo's mechanics definitely on display here playing the Thoth.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the cases as well, though, Tolly. When you watch a 2-0 team down, the third game's going on, and you look at the scoreline and you're down 5-6 kills, you can see the faces of the PK players start to drop. They weren't happy, obviously, they weren't doing very well, but it's hard to continue playing when you're just getting battered in these sort of engagements.
Their buffs on the left side were just constantly getting pressured. They had no answer to it. They tried to defend it, but alas, to no avail, and something that United is continuing to succeed in is the objective control. A lot of it also comes to the composition. Space control from the Xing and Cupid ultimates, the cripple, the displacement as well. Adapting was very quiet this set on both the Bakasura and the Susano.
Well, with that being said, though, United with a fantastic performance here today. We're talking mainly about the Knights and the lack of performance out of them, but United really put them to bed there. And this is a team that's been there throughout the year and generally on the quieter side in terms of coverage, mainly because it's a more of a quieter team anyway. And we were always expecting them to be in amongst it for the most part. They're really starting to find form at the right moment.
United's identity definitely showing off since the very first set of emilitoo playing in phase 1, which was against Pittsburgh night back in May 16th, where they inevitably lost 0-3, but 4 months passed by, and all of a sudden, emilitoo not playing the Xingweis anymore, playing the Thoths, playing the Cronoses like we expect him to, and Eunited now winning 3-0.
And speaking of Eunited, we've got emilitoo and BigManTingz standing by to break down that set.
All right, we have emilitoo and BigManTingz. Excuse me, guys, I got you all backwards there. Congratulations on the win. So I assume you all were coming in confident that you'd be able to get the win, but in a 3-0 like this, I mean, are you all surprised at how much better you all looked here today?
Not really. I'm pretty sure all of us thought we were gonna win yesterday. Because I don't know, we're very confident right now in our drafts and like our playstyle. So yeah, we're a bit surprised it was kind of that easy, but we knew we were gonna win today.
Yeah, for Tings, for you, I mean, it felt like the 3v3 in mid is really where everything was happening for you guys at the beginning of the games. I mean, normally they pick a lot of different things, but they picked a lot less pressure here today. Do you think that's what lets you get such easy wins in the 3v3?
Yeah, I mean, we had a meeting last night, and our game plan was just to play full pressure at the end of the day. And I felt so confident going into today, even though I am a bit ill. But I was just confident in myself and my team. So I literally just said to him, just pick pressure gods, play around me in mids, and it was that easy, I guess.
That's what it looked like to us, too. Emil, I talked to you about the game one end that you do, because I think if you just look at the stats, it might look like a quiet game from you, but you really weren't needed that much, if I'm being honest. So what was the call like at the end when you just go take the Titan by yourself?
I mean, I don't know, like, I'm just trolling, I don't know. Like, I'm playing Chronos on full build, I'm AK damage, like what am I doing? Like?
You're ending the game, dude. That's
right.
more important.
You got the one kill in that.
Yeah, exactly right. Emil, I mean, clearly it took you a little bit of time to ramp up and get comfortable again here in Season 6, but I think that since you've really come into form, the whole team looks a lot better. What has been the biggest difference for you personally and for the team that has led to this level of success?
I don't know, like, we're playing Hunters mid, and like, you know, like, I have a big god pool, I can play like a lot of stuff, so like, I have a lot of more freedom now as well on what I get to play, because like before it's like, you pick Xing, you're a Xing slave. Now I can like pick whatever I want.
Yeah.
And was there anything in particular, this can be our last question to wrap it up here, that you all saw coming into this set? Because it really seemed like you all just had them figured out. I mean, it never really felt like they knew what to do to handle the pressure from you all early and all the invades. So was there anything else that you all saw in the prep?
Well, I feel like we know them quite well as players and people just outside the game, so we kind of knew what we wanted to do going into today. And I'm just happy everyone was so confident going into the game today, and we were able to show that and get the win.
Do you guys feel like you, as we get close to the end of the year here, where do you feel like you'll end up in the standings? Do you feel like you can finish in the top 3?
I mean, like, it's not really that relevant to us. I
No.
don't think, like, we're looking, it's like worlds, you know.
We
like,
don't really,
as long as we're top 6, we're happy.
The standings doesn't matter anyway. As long as we're top 6, and as a team, we're going to go into Worlds hopefully confident and playing the way we do today. That's the main thing.
I mean, if you're playing the way you do today, it's hard to be anything but confident. Congratulations, guys, on a big sweep of Pittsburgh Knights. Stay tuned. We got our next set coming up soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.